Chapter 1292. Chula was indignant. Now that I'm alive, why can't I live my own life? Do what I want to do the most? Why do I have to be restrained? I'll naturally be very happy if you praise me, but I don't care if you scold me. You scold me, I'll kill mine. As long as my brother, father, and mother don't scold me, isn't that enough? To be alive is to be unrestrained. To be free and unrestrained. He wanted to be free and unrestrained. To do as one pleases. Whatever he wanted to do, he would do it. Only then can one live up to one's great life and youth. Wu Jueqing began the second stage of teaching. Look at the way you're using poison. It's too wasteful. Poison is a gift from the heavens. Every kind of poison has its own unique value. Therefore, you can't use it carelessly. What do you mean, teacher? When we use poison, we have to use just the right amount, not a bit more, not a bit less. It's just enough to kill someone, yet it's not a waste. Let's say, if you can poison a chicken to death with one tail of grass, then wouldn't it be a waste if you used 2 tails of grass? You have to be careful with your spending. I see. There are many stages in using poison. The first stage, you just have to poison someone to death. Any kind of poison can be used. This is the lowest level. Because you can't grasp the toxicity at all. The second stage is precision, which varies from person to person. The third stage is to use a poison that can only kill a martial king to kill a martial saint. This is a science. It concerns one's physique, cultivation technique, environment, state of mind and so on. As for the fourth stage, it's to use a tonic to poison someone to death. Yes, when it comes to the fifth stage, it can be done at any time. That is, I can use a poison to kill someone to save someone, but I can use a poison to save someone to kill someone. When that time comes, you'll be both a divine doctor and a poison saint. Only then will you be considered to have truly entered the door. For example, me. You're now at the first stage. You have to hurry and advance to the second stage. You have to use a different kind of poison depending on the kind of person you're dealing with. For example, when you're dealing with a martial king, the tricolor poison is enough to send him to heaven, but you use the shadowless poison that can kill a martial saint. This is too wasteful. Besides, you're overestimating him too much. To die from such a high-level poison is too preferential. A lower 3 heavens duck. Yet you insist on capturing it and bringing it to Heaven Imperial Court. It was Gao who killed him. Master, you mean, as the saying goes, the kind of person plays with the kind of bird, and the kind of person uses the kind of poison. There must be a match. This way, it would be easier for him to control his poison arts. It won't be so messy. Yes, I understand, as long as you understand. For example, brothels and brothels. A romantic and a peddler definitely doesn't go to the same place. Cough, I've misspoken. Actually, I never go to that kind of place. Yes, your disciple believes that master will definitely not go, even once. Wu Jueqing covered his face and ran away in tears. To conduct oneself in this world, one must be open and above board. Poison Doctor Wu Jueqing said sanctimoniously, therefore, when you kill someone, you must reveal your name. If that's the case, then my conscience is clear. Yes. I'm Chula. Chula said. Not good. Wu Jueqing frowned. The 3 words Chula. It was not imposing at all. You have to have a resounding nickname when you roam the Jianghu. This needs to be carefully planned. Yes, master is right. Then let's discuss it. Both master and disciple studied for a long time. After rejecting countless nicknames, a nickname that both master and disciple were satisfied with finally appeared out of nowhere. Once this nickname appeared, it was because Miss Chula wanted to make a name for herself. It immediately became popular in the north and south of the Qing River and on both sides of the river, Miss Heavenly Poison. Along the way, there was a reign of terror. Miss Chula's poison arts were getting more and more superb. The more she used them, the more proficient she became. Coming out of the Black Blood Forest, they went all the way to the Yi clan's territory. This journey was even crueler than Chu Yang's the last time. Everywhere they passed, there was a wave of mourning. The name Miss Heavenly Poison spread far and wide. The power of the limelight was simply unparalleled. All demons and monsters fled at the sight of her. Everyone knew that there was a ruthless and merciless young lady, known as the Miss Heavenly Poison, who was heading all the way north from the southeast. It was better for everyone to hide far away. If they angered this young miss, it would not be a joke. They really deserved to kill. She killed a whole bunch of people without even blinking her beautiful eyelashes. Ever since they entered the Yi clan's territory, there were more disputes and more people cursing the extraterrestrial demons. Therefore, the number of people who died in the hands of Miss Heavenly Poison also increased. A few disciples of the Yi clan's affiliated clans heard that the Miss Heavenly Poison was as beautiful as a flower and actually had evil thoughts. Faced with a trap, the master and disciple naturally stepped into it. Then, the clans that set up the trap were unlucky. After these clans were ravaged, robbed, plundered, and threatened, they ran to the Yi clan overnight to complain. The Yi clan naturally had to stand up for their subordinates. Therefore, wave after wave of people came, from weak to strong. Wu Jueqing thought that this was a great opportunity to train his disciple. Therefore, as long as no real experts of 5th grade martial saint and above appeared, the poison doctor would just stand by and watch. Chula originally had martial saint cultivation. Now that her poison arts had improved greatly, it was naturally easy for her. Besides, the little girl didn't know what the Yi clan was. She had no qualms at all. As long as she could kill, she would kill them along the way. The matter became bigger and bigger. By the time the Yi clan also realized that they had kicked an iron plate this time, dozens of Yi clan experts had already died in the hands of the Miss Heavenly Poison. This even included 3 4th grade martial saints. Thus, the Yi clan sent out 2 1st grade supreme martial artists to lead the troops and prepare to capture and kill the Miss Heavenly Poison for revenge. But after the 2 1st grade supreme martial artists went out, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. In the past, there were still people who escaped back to report, but this time, even the people who reported were gone. Thus, they directly sent out 3 3rd grade supreme martial artists. In the end, this time, it was still uncertain. The matter was serious. How could the Yi clan take it lying down after suffering such a huge loss? Therefore, they sent out another 2 5th grade supreme martial artists. Just like before, they didn't return. This time, they panicked. But just as the Yi clan was mobilizing their troops and preparing to make a big move to avenge their previous humiliation, they received a letter from the northwest. Before the clan master finished reading the letter, the entire courtyard of the Yi clan headquarters suddenly became chaotic. Someone shouted in panic, "Oh no! The Miss Heavenly Poison has killed her way in." Wu Jueqing had always been fearless. What Yi clan? Why wasn't it over after provoking the master and disciple? In a fit of anger, she barged into the headquarters. She insisted on demanding an explanation. At this moment, everyone in the Yi clan who heard her was both angry and amused. This Miss Heavenly Poison was seriously too arrogant, wasn't she? We couldn't do anything to her even if she threw her weight around outside, but she actually barged into the Yi clan's headquarters to create trouble. This old man was really arrogant. She actually came to the Yi clan's headquarters to demand an explanation. She really didn't know how she died. With a single order, the Yi clan's experts surrounded the master and disciple in 3 layers. Thus, Lord Poison Doctor was enraged. With a shout and a wave of his hand, they fell all over the ground. In the end, this matter alarmed the number 1 elder master of the Yi clan, Yi Chen. Yi Chen was in seclusion. Hearing the commotion in the clan, he came out to take a look with a few guards and experts after a long period of silence. The moment he took a look, he was practically shocked. In an instant, he felt a huge headache coming on. My goodness, how did they offend this ancestor? And they even came to the clan to cause trouble. Even if Yi Chen hadn't seen the experts of the past, he had seen portraits of them. How could he not recognize that this ancestor was Poison Doctor Wu Jueqing? Helpless, he hurriedly went forward and bowed. Elder Wu, what brings you to the Yi clan? There was nothing to say about this. In terms of seniority, Wu Jueqing was the previous tribulation, while Yi Chen was the son of the previous tribulation. This was a huge gap in seniority. The moment Yi Chen opened his mouth, everyone was stunned. The first elder master who had lived for 10,000 years was still calling him elder. Everyone in the Yi clan was dumbfounded. What did they provoke in the clan? Wu Jueqing rolled his eyes and said, "Your Yi clan is too insensible, constantly sending people to bully my disciple." The martial emperors went to the monarchs went to the martial saints, and then several batches. The martial saints couldn't take them down, so they simply sent out waves of supreme martial artists. This old man saw that it was too tiring for you to deploy troops time and time again. It was too troublesome, so this old man came knocking on your door. Yi Chenchen's face turned the color of pig liver at once. He glared angrily at his grandchildren. They really knew how to stir up trouble. The last time, they had provoked a great expert from beyond the void, and even their own son had died an unnatural death, along with more than 100 supreme martial artists of the clan. And now, they had directly provoked the poison doctor Wu Jueqing into the clan. Ordinary people would know to pick a soft target. But their great clan with 10,000 years of history actually didn't even pick a soft target to bully. What the heck? Wu Jueqing. Was this someone they could provoke into the clan? They would rather provoke Ning Tianya, Bu Liuqing, Yu Lingxue, Feng Yuro, and even the Dharma Supreme into the clan than bring Wu Jueqing into the clan. The moment this fellow appeared in the Yi clan, he was in the heart of the clan. With just a thought, there would be a plague in the surrounding hundreds of miles. Elder, you must be joking. Ho! Yi Chenchen's face darkened. Who provoked Elder Wu? Step forward and apologize yourselves. This deep shout was naturally extremely majestic. But no one stepped forward. Cough. For those few who provoked me, this old man has already sent them to have tea with your father. Wu Jueqing said calmly, I'm here this time. I'm afraid that all of you aren't prepared, so I'm here to accept your punishment. Millimeter, if all of you don't wish to punish me, then I'll have to demand an explanation. After a pause, he actually nodded affirmatively. Millimeter, this explanation must be demanded. The surrounding Yi clan members were rather dumbfounded. Wasn't this old fellow a little too arrogant? Even if you're a senior, but you've already killed all those who provoked you. We haven't even settled the score with you, yet you're actually here to demand an explanation? There were still 150 votes left before today's target of 400 votes. There were still 3 chapters left before the chapter 1 promised. There were still 5 hours left. I'm going to continue fighting. Chapter 1293. Yi Chen had a helpless look on his face. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, he said, Elder, even if I have more guts, I still wouldn't dare to punish you. Since you've already punished those ignorant people, why don't we just let it go? On account of the fact that we share the same roots, upon hearing the words share the same roots, Wu Jueqing's expression changed strangely. Strictly speaking, they really did share the same roots, they were both related to tribulation. Wu Jueqing's mentality had changed during this period of time. He also seemed to be less concerned about the past. When he heard this, all sorts of emotions actually welled up in him. With a sigh, he said, Forget it. Since you've already said so, I won't go too far. Yi Chen thanked him profusely. It's fine as long as the Yi clan compensates my little disciple for some of her losses. Wu Jueqing looked at Chu Le lovingly. My little disciple is a little girl, but she has always been timid and has always been doted on like a precious jewel. This time, you guys gave her quite a scare. A few people outside had strange looks on their faces. Given quite a scare. This little grandaunt used innate poison right off the bat. Who exactly was the one given quite a scare? Yi Chen burst into laughter. Of course. Someone, open the clan's treasure vault. This little. He spoke softly. He really didn't know how to address her. Even if he didn't go by age and seniority in the secular world and only went by tribulation, Wu Jueqing was also from his grandfather's generation. Now that Wu Jueqing had taken in a younger brother, was he supposed to address her as grandaunt? Cough, you're being too arrogant. Just call her little sister. Wu Jueqing rolled his eyes. Upon hearing that Yi Chen was so good at handling matters and actually opened the treasure vault directly, Wu Jueqing also felt that he had some face, so he didn't make things difficult for him. Otherwise, he would make this elder master of the Yi clan address Chula a 14-year-old girl, as grandaunt in front of his descendant. It wasn't as if they, the poison doctor, couldn't do such a thing. Millimeter, bring this little sister, to choose some things that she likes. Yi Chen felt relieved. But what if I like a lot of things? Chula looked at Wu Jueqing pitifully. Wu Jueqing frowned at once. That's right, he doesn't have any storage equipment either. Prepare a storage ring of the largest size for this little sister. Before Wu Jueqing could finish speaking, Yi Chen had already started making arrangements. Since this extortion had already been finalized, it would be better to be straightforward and get lenient treatment. You're still young. You're worthy of being a descendant of tribulation. How sensible. Wu Jueqing praised. Yi Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was already 10,000 years old, and he was being called little by others. Yet, they actually praised him. How sensible. I'm too sensible. Chula had a harmless and pitiful look on her face as she followed him to the Yi clan's treasure vault with a red face to pick out the spiritual compensation for her loss. Yi Chen eagerly entertained her. She invited Wu Jueqing into the living room and personally accompanied him, serving him carefully. Outside, the confused experts of the Yi clan gradually dispersed. Seeing that the corpses of the people who had been poisoned had turned black, they were somewhat puzzled. Why didn't the ancestor ask this old man for the antidote? But they didn't know. Yi Chen deeply understood this poison doctor's personality. Since he had personally poisoned them, then it was best not to ask for the antidote. It was useless even if he did. They would definitely die. Some people were indignant and asked about this old man's background. Those who understood said a few words solemnly. 30,000 years ago, one of the tribulations. Poison doctor, Wu Jueqing. Supreme martial artist Chen Feng's only successor. These few words. It shocked those who didn't know the truth so much that they staggered. Good heavens. Helping the affiliated clans to vent their anger, they actually kicked the biggest iron plate in the world. At this moment, everyone even had the thought of exterminating those affiliated clans. No wonder the ancestor was so polite. With Wu Jueqing in the clan, it was practically an unsolvable situation. Even if they were surrounded and killed outside, there was still some hope of escaping with the help of the high winds and dry environment, or if they were lucky and set up the right arrangements, they could still kill this old fellow. But in their own home. Unless they didn't want their grandchildren to live anymore. Yi Chen and Wu Jueqing drank tea. After a long while, they finally saw Chula enter shyly and weakly. She stood obediently behind Wu Jueqing. Wu Jueqing burst into laughter. Without asking what his disciple had taken, he took his leave at once. Yi Chen couldn't have asked for more. He hurriedly sent them off. After sending the old and young pair out, Yi Chen prepared to continue his seclusion. Was he supposed to give his grandchildren a good scolding over something like this? Let bygones be bygones. The warden who had led Chula into the treasury was ashen-faced and evasive. In a moment of curiosity, he asked, "What did that little girl take?" "She." Large beads of sweat trickled down the warden's face. He stammered, She took, the sovereign sword, the bloom and fade flower, a piece of soul of the purple crystal, 2 jade snow spirit ginseng, a piece of golden essence jade, a set of heavenly moonlight treasure, and 7 to 8 11th grade and 12th grade spirit beast cores. What? Even with 10,000 years of composure, Yi Chen couldn't help but hold his forehead and sway. Beside him, the 2 middle-grade supreme martial artists who had accompanied him in his seclusion also couldn't help but widen their eyes. These were all heirlooms of the Yi clan. Every single one of them was hard to come by. It could be said that even the most inferior of them was a top-notch heavenly treasure that could shock the heavens. The sovereign sword was a peerless divine weapon. One only needed to infuse it with origin energy and it could cut through metal like mud. Moreover, it had a majestic and beautiful appearance, and the blade was flexible and tough. When not in use, It could be wrapped around one's waist like a belt. Legend had it that this sword was made by a ruler beyond the heavens. It had accidentally fallen into the heavenly plane. The Yi clan had always treasured it and didn't dare to show it to others. Who would have thought that this sword would change hands even before it became profitable in the Yi clan? The bloom and fade flower bloomed once every 5,000 years. The moment the flower bloomed, it immediately withered. After it withered, it lost all its effect. Only when plucked at the moment of its bloom would it become a peerless divine medicine. The bloom and fade flower could preserve one's youth and soul forever. There was no need to talk about the soul of the purple crystal and the jade snow spirit ginseng. The gold essence jade was a rare treasure from beyond the heavens. It was soft to the touch and light as if it was weightless. Just like red cloud steel, it was 100 times more valuable. It could be used to forge weapons and was indestructible. Moreover, it could merge with the spirit and become a spiritual divine weapon. The heavenly moonlight treasure was the essence of the moon formed by pure moonlight in a certain specific space. Even the Yi clan, who owned it, had never studied its effects. They only knew that it was an amazing item, but didn't know what it was used for. As for the 7 to 8 11th grade and 12th grade spirit beast cores, any one of them was an astronomical amount of wealth. One must know that the Yi clan had existed for 10,000 years, and they had only collected these few cores. And now, they had changed hands. As he thought about these things, even with Yi Chunchen's magnanimity, he still felt waves of pain in his heart. He had originally thought that the little girl was weak and obedient. Moreover, she was young and might not have much experience and insight. She had only gone to pick a few things that girls liked, which weren't worth much anyway. He had just taken it as coaxing a child. Besides, looking at how shy the little girl was at that time, it was still a question whether she would have the nerve to take them. Who would have thought that she would directly put a huge dragon in the shiny treasure vault? He recalled Wu Jueqing's evaluation of himself, so sensible. Yi Chen couldn't help but agree. I'm indeed too sensible. So sensible that even I want to slap myself a few times. Sigh. It's also my fault. I was too generous. Yi Chen groaned and sighed. Why didn't you keep these things properly? She shouldn't have been able to see them. The warden's face was ashen as he dropped to his knees. It's my great-great-grandson who deserves to die. That rascal. That bastard. She. The moment she entered the treasure vault, she poisoned the three of us with shadowless poison and innate poison. Yi Chunchen's mouth gaped open in disbelief. Shadowless poison? Innate poison? That weak little girl. She didn't listen to our introductions at all. She poisoned us the moment she entered. Then she said there would be a competition among the three of us. Whoever brought the best item would be given the antidote first. Then, the one with the worst condition wouldn't be given the antidote. The warden's face was ashen. She wasn't picky at all. Great-grandson. This. That. Did she even need to be picky? With the three of you who know the treasure vault the best to pick for her, what was there for her to be picky about? Yi Chen sucked in a few breaths of cold air as though he had a toothache. His face was full of black lines as he muttered to himself, such a weak and delicate little girl whom I can't help but feel pity for. A black-hearted and incomparably greedy demoness whose entire body is filled with poison. Hiss, the three of you, go to the disciplinary hall to receive your punishment. I'm going into seclusion. With a flick of his sleeves, Yi Chen left. Cold sweat broke out on the warden's face. When he saw that the elder master had gone far away, he slapped himself twice and muttered to himself, there's no the three of you anymore. I'm the only one left now. The little grandaunt isn't satisfied with the items that those two brought. The poison has already taken effect and their bodies are stiff. They said that they'll only recover after a month. The Yi clan passed down a strict order within the territory of the Yi clan. No matter what the heavenly poison eldest miss did, everyone was to support her. Whoever dared to provoke the heavenly poison eldest miss would be punished according to the clan rules. However, the reason for this was closely guarded. Firstly, it was really embarrassing if this matter got out. Secondly, it would be so unfair if the Yi clan was the only one at a disadvantage. No matter what, Wu Jueqing had to bring his disciple to the other clans to pay their respects, right? Wu Jueqing and his disciple were leisurely. They set off from the Yi clan's encampment and headed toward the northwest. Along the way, there were naturally quite a number of law enforcement officers discussing the extraterrestrial demon Chu Yang. However, all of them were mercilessly punished by Chu Le. When the law enforcement officers failed to take revenge on many occasions and lost their composure gradually, the Dharma Supreme finally received an eagle message. He immediately passed down an order: no one was to provoke this old and young pair. What kind of person was the Dharma Supreme? The moment he received the intelligence, he immediately concluded that this old man was most likely Wu Jueqing. Chapter 1294. Now, the Dharma Supreme couldn't wait to hide from Wu Jueqing. How would he dare to approach him? At least, before that divine technique was mastered, the Dharma Supreme could only hide as far away from Wu Jueqing as possible, as far away as possible. Moreover, after hearing that Wu Jueqing and his disciple were heading to the northwest, the Dharma Supreme had originally wanted to go to the northwest personally to take a look, but he also dismissed the idea. Moonbreeze and the rest guessed that Wu Jueqing's trip this time was to settle scores with the Dharma Supreme, but, unexpectedly, Wu Jueqing actually didn't have such intentions. He started to teach his disciple wholeheartedly. He actually didn't seem to take the Dharma Supreme's deception and betrayal to heart. If word of this attitude were to spread, those who knew of the situation back then would probably be in disbelief. Was this still Wu Jueqing? All of you are not me, you don't know my happiness, Wu Jueqing thought to himself. Looking at a young genius who was brimming with talent, gradually emitting a brilliance that shocked the heavens under his guidance. Such a sense of accomplishment couldn't even compare to killing 10,000 Dharma Supremes, not to mention the Dharma Supreme and his disciple heading all the way to the northwest. Not to mention Minister Chu, who was still trapped underground, was already in a sorry state. In the blink of an eye, he had already been underground for a month. And he had been working day and night. Calculating the distance, he had probably already dug out more than 4,000 miles. But for safety's sake, Chu Yang still decided to dig a little more. Anyway, he had already been underground for a month. What did it matter if he stayed for another month? If he went out now, all his previous efforts would be wasted, and that would be really not worth it. Chu Yang's forbearance was fully displayed in this 1 month underground. His tenacity shocked the 8 old fellows who had lived for more than 1,000 years. Normal people couldn't possibly stay in a dark and humid place for a month, and still have to do high-intensity work non-stop. Even the 8 of them couldn't stand it anymore. But it was precisely during this period of time that Chu Yang alone made this 1 month's dark and humid. Or pranks, or jokes, or pretending to be deep and comforting, and then suddenly laughing and saying that you had been deceived. Or tempted by food, or tempted by wine, or, often, the day before, he would announce that there was no more food. It was only enough for the last day. In the future, everyone could only starve. Therefore, everyone treasured the food at night. But the next day, when everyone was preparing to find something to eat underground, such as earthworms, Chu Yang would look on with folded arms and sigh again and again. They waited until they had dug out a few earthworms. Each and every one of them would look at the squirming earthworms and retch at the thought of eating these things raw. Chu Yang would suddenly say, as if he had discovered a new continent, "Oh, by the way, I didn't finish what I was going to say yesterday. There's no more dry food. But I still have some meat here, and it was cooked before." At that moment, everyone was so happy that they almost wanted to tear that hateful smile off his face and wipe his ass. After drinking for a few days, the wine was finally finished. Seeing Chu Yang throw out more than 10 wine jars, everyone finally lost all hope. It's really gone. But in the evening, when everyone was silently preparing to eat, Chu Yang would sigh and say, "Sigh, there's no more wine." Everyone was silent. "Sigh, I originally thought that this wine would last until we get out, but it's still not enough. I miscalculated." Everyone was speechless. "Sigh, there are still a few better jars in the ring. I was going to keep them for myself to drink secretly. Looks like it won't work." So everyone's eyes widened. "Do you want to drink?" At this time, Chu Yang's eyes were full of mischief. Therefore, everyone scolded and beat this guy up again. Then, they threatened him and took out the wine with a swollen face. Every time that happened, everyone didn't feel that they were underground at all, but in heaven. Every time, there was no dry food. There was meat. There was no leopard meat. There was bear meat, and other meat. There was no more wine after drinking for a few days. So, they took out better ones. After there was no more wine, they could actually take it out again. It was the cruelest time. When Chu Yang said that there was no more wine, no one believed him. But there was really no more wine at night. There was still no more wine tomorrow. The day after tomorrow, everyone accepted their fate. There was really no more wine, but the day after tomorrow, Chu Yang would say very embarrassedly, I looked through the ring and found a jar of old wine. Often, Chu Yang would be beaten up even more miserably at this time. These kinds of actions were all mischief. If it was in the outside world and repeated over and over again, everyone would probably be tired of it and hate it. But in this dark and lightless underground, everyone was living a very happy life by relying on Chu Yang's endless pranks. There were new tricks every day. Everyone deliberately made themselves stupid and didn't think about anything at all. They were fooled by Chu Yang's mischief. Anyway, this little guy was still going to be beaten up by us. It was not a loss. As the days went by, the 8 people really admired Chu Yang more and more. Where did this guy get such a strong mental cultivation? His tenacity was too strong. Of course, they couldn't just work when they had nothing to do. During this period of time, everyone bragged about their life experiences. At first, it was okay, and everyone listened with great interest. But later, they couldn't avoid repeating it. So, the people at the front bragged, and the people at the back exposed their shortcomings. Hey, that's not right. Didn't you say that your enemy was stuffed into the latrine and suffocated to death? How come it became death by 1,000 cuts now? There's a loophole. Didn't you say that your second great-aunt's father-in-law's uncle's aunt's second cousin's uncle's eldest son's sister-in-law's sister-in-law is a saint-level master? How come she's now a restaurant owner? Hiss, that's not right. Your second great-aunt should be a woman. How can a woman have a father-in-law? At this time, there was often a quarrel. The one who was exposed argued with a red face and neck, and the others uniformly despised. When it was Chu Yang's turn, Chu Yang said, "Let me tell you about my personal experience." So everyone listened with respectful attention. Chu Yang said, I remember that in my previous life, I was also called Chu Yang. I lived until I was dozens of years old and was killed. Then I suddenly found out that in this life, everyone held their bellies and covered their mouths to laugh until they rolled on the ground. This guy really knew how to brag. He actually talked about the previous life, this life. Why didn't he talk about the next life? Chu Yang also laughed. His laughter was very carefree and very ridiculous. After talking for a while, the topic of their future was brought up. I'm really curious. Why did Boss Lang ask us to resign and wander the martial world after we go back? Interrogation Officer 1 was a little confused. No matter how powerful the Tribulation Swordmaster is, he can't possibly kill law enforcement officers, right? Chu Yang said in surprise, your state of mind is wrong. No matter who you suspect, you can't suspect your boss. Tell me yourselves, were Master Lang's last words for your own good? The 4 nodded in unison. There's no doubt about that. Yes, Chu Yang said, think about it again. For 100,000 years, all those who went against the Tribulation Swordmaster, which one of them had a good ending? There really wasn't. On this point, anyone could be sure of it. The law enforcement officers are powerful now, but who knows how powerful the Tribulation Swordmaster is? If the Tribulation Swordmaster was defeated instead, then, wouldn't that be defying the natural order? How can there be such a thing? Chu Yang said, so the Tribulation Swordmaster will definitely win. The law enforcement officers will definitely lose. That's true. So, if you continue to stay among the law enforcement officers, won't that be equivalent to waiting for death? Chu Yang guided them patiently. But, if we don't do this, what can we do? Interrogation Officer 1 was very distressed. Apart from fighting and killing, we brothers don't have any other skills. Besides, the whole continent will be in turmoil. Even if we live in seclusion, where can we live in seclusion? Chu Yang said righteously, you can find me in the southeast. I'm not as strong as Ning Tianya, Bu Liuqing, Yu Lingxue, Feng Yuro, and Wu Juecheng. As long as I don't deliberately cause trouble, even the Tribulation Sword Master can't do anything to me, right? Interrogation Officer 1's eyes lit up at once. Besides, as a force, there must be a criminal organization, and I lack people like you on my side. If you come to my side, it's also a torture chamber. And it's foolproof. You can even avoid all the storms in the world. Why not? Chu Yang said earnestly, this is my good intentions. I sincerely invite all of you to join me. Of course, if Master Lang didn't say this, I wouldn't poach you either. But Master Lang's last words, are you not going to listen to them? Interrogation Officer 1 was very moved. This was really a good idea to kill two birds with one stone. This idea is really not bad. Interrogation Officer 2 looked at Interrogation Officer 1, rather moved. Yes, go elsewhere. It's also very hard to find someone like Brother Chu. Interrogation Officer 4, who had always been a man of few words, also urged at this moment. Interrogation Officer 1 frowned and pondered. If all of you agree, after we've avenged Master Lang, we'll bring our brothers to the southeast. All right, WN Renjie said at the side, then, we'll also go to the southeast then. Yes, it'll be great if everyone gathers together. Everyone agreed. They rubbed their palms together. Chu Yang chuckled secretly. Yes, poaching plan. Initial success. Since there was no need to worry about food and drink, and the future was set, everyone was full of enthusiasm. The following progress actually sped up quite a bit. Day after day passed. Yet another thing happened that shocked and surprised everyone to the point that it was unbelievable. After digging stones and digging holes for 1.5 months in this dark tunnel, 1.5 months, each and every one of them actually discovered that they were actually about to break through. What was going on? The first to discover this was, of course, Chu Yang. Hey, there's something wrong with my cultivation. It's actually getting restless. Could it be that I'm about to break through to second-grade supreme martial artist? Once Chu Yang said that, everyone who felt that they were full of energy during this period of time also checked. Once they saw it, each and every one of them instantly exclaimed in surprise. Now, my fingers are trembling. I will continue to write the next update. G. Chapter 1295. Everyone realized that their cultivation was on the verge of a breakthrough. Moreover, the internal energy in their bodies was vast and mighty, and they could break through any time. That originally unbreakable bottleneck actually seemed to have mottled cracks appearing on it. How could this be? Could it be that digging underground could actually increase one's cultivation? Everyone was puzzled. The most puzzled one was naturally Chu Yang. Wow. Digging underground actually increased one's cultivation by one supreme martial artist. This. Everyone shuddered at the thought of this. Could it be true? Instantly, everyone looked at this dark underground tunnel and these heavy stones, their eyes burning with passion. Digging underground could actually increase one's cultivation. Of course, they couldn't break through here. Once they did, there would be a big commotion, so everyone could only suppress it. But everyone was absolutely sure that the bottleneck had already been broken. Once they got out, they would immediately become a second-grade supreme martial artist. Excited, everyone's spirits were high. Immediately, they dug underground desperately. Chu Yang laughed in his heart, but his face was serious. There was naturally a reason for their cultivation to increase tremendously. Chu Yang very carefully mixed a small cup of Shuelehan's celestial wine evenly with the wine they drank these days. Even if he tasted it carefully, he couldn't tell. But their cultivation was getting stronger day by day. It had been almost 2 months. It wasn't strange for their cultivation to increase by one level. Especially, a few of them were on the verge of breaking through. What Chu Yang didn't expect was that in the future, in the end, these few people went to the southeast. For the time being, there was no war, and their cultivation couldn't break through. These few guys actually started a frenzy of digging underground. This led to the underground of the flat mountain ridge leading to all directions. When Chu Yang returned to the flat mountain ridge one day, only then did he realize that the underground of the flat mountain ridge had already become an underground maze. Countless tunnels meandered, crisscrossing here and there, just like a spider web. Let's not talk about this later. This field mouse worked diligently underground, unaware of the changes in time. Finally, one day, Wei Wuyan reported, "We've been digging for 2.5 months." Chu Yang was stunned. Based on the average of 130 miles per day, how much have we dug? 2.5 months, that's 75 days. 130 miles per day. It should be more than 7,000 miles, right? Wan Renjie said with uncertainty. Really, stupid to the extreme, Cheng Duiying said contemptuously, you don't even know such simple arithmetic. It's clearly 8,400 miles. Wan Renjie suddenly understood. Oh. Interrogation Officer 1 frowned. Something's not right. Bao Buhuan held a small stone in his hand and anxiously calculated on the wall. The stone wall made a scratching sound, 130 plus 130 plus 130 plus 130 plus 130 plus 130, as he calculated, Bao Buhuan's heart skipped a beat. That's too much. I feel dizzy just looking at it. Of course, Chu Yang was the most knowledgeable one among them. After calculating in his mind, he slapped his thigh and said, "You bunch of idiot. I was too excited and overdid it." Everyone was flabbergasted. If we calculate from Chu Ling to the northwest, it's only 7,700 li. But if we calculate from 130 li, in 75 days, we've dug out 550 li. It's a whopping 2,800 kilometers. It's 2,550 miles. Wei Wuyan corrected. Die on one side. Chu Yang shouted angrily. Wei Wuyan rolled his eyes and looked at the sky. His angry out of humiliation. Everyone roared with laughter. All right. Chu Yang raised his hand to stop them. Let's get ready to go out. Those who haven't stayed here long enough can stay here. The next moment, everyone shook their heads in unison. If that's the case. A flower-like smile gradually bloomed on Chu Yang's muddy face. It was just that, against the backdrop of the mud, it was like a chrysanthemum flower. It was wrinkled like a chrysanthemum flower. Begin the operation. Awu tilde. Everyone let out a strange cry. Finally, they were going to see the light of day again, and it was a very safe time to see the light of day again. Ling Hanyu had already stayed here for more than a year. Ever since he got the news that there might be a calamity in the Li clan and all the clans started to take action, Ling Hanyu volunteered to lead a team here. After coming here, he started to carry out harassment tactics. For a long period of time, it was very effective. Originally, when he came here, he was at the back of the Li clan. Now, he gradually entered and had already taken over the Li clan's sphere of influence. The few affiliated clans were all uprooted. Every time he thought of this, Ling Hanyu always felt very proud. Ling Hanyu was definitely not a cultivation maniac. His aptitude was one of the best among the younger generation of the Ling clan, but he was also famous for his laziness. Therefore, all his brothers were already at the martial saint level. Some of the faster ones were already at the supreme level, but he was still at the monarch level. However, although his martial prowess was not high, his methods of doing things were thunderous and ruthless. And he was very utilitarian. He was an exception. Everyone thought that suppressing the Li clan was for the Calamity Swordmaster, but, not only suppressing the Li clan, but also opening up new territory for the clan. I'm the meritorious one. Ling Hanyu stood under a tree with his hands in his sleeves, looking at the winding mountain ranges and ravines in front of him. The white snow covered everything, and he was somewhat proud of himself. The conditions now look tough, but once the clan's power is stabilized, who can compare to my contributions to the clan when it comes to rewards? With the merits and sacrifices here, it will be very beneficial for the position of clan master. The clan usually only chooses the clan master based on long-term planning and wisdom. Martial prowess is not very important. Instead of neglecting sleep and food to study martial arts for a lifetime, how can it compare to holding great power and living a carefree life? As for the Li clan suddenly going crazy and killing so many people from the Ling clan, so what? What should be sacrificed will be sacrificed. Without sacrifice, where will I get the bargaining chip? It's better if the Li clan is even crazier. I want to hold great power and control the clan. I won't be like that fool Ling Hanwu. For a woman, he suffered for a lifetime and even lost his life in the end. To me, women are just decorations and playthings. That's all. In history, who has ever been mesmerized by a woman's charms? Ling Hanyu was full of self-satisfaction, his eyes full of pride. In the eyes of the crowd, Fourth Master Ling seemed to be mourning for the souls of the fallen heroes, but no one knew what he was truly thinking. Ling Hanyu always chose this cemetery to meditate, and everyone felt that Ling Hanyu was a loyal and righteous person. He was really a good leader, right at this moment. Ling Hanyu's expression changed. Because the terrain in front of him seemed to have changed, there seemed to be movement underground. What was going on? Ling Hanyu's eyes widened. The next moment, on the snowy ground about 10 feet in front of him, a hand suddenly reached out with a poof. A hand that was black and covered in mud. It curled up in the air, and its joints actually made 2 cracking sounds. Ling Hanyu's vision turned black, and he almost fainted on the spot. Think about it. On an evening when the sun was setting, he was alone in the cemetery. Right at this moment, a hand suddenly came out from underground without any warning. Damn it. Did it have to be so scary? Especially someone like Ling Hanyu who had a guilty conscience. He was using the dead to create prestige for himself. Yet at this moment, Ling Hanyu was scared out of his wits. He wanted to turn around and escape. But at this moment, his feet were nailed to the ground as if they had grown roots. He actually couldn't move at all. Right at this moment, a voice actually came from underground. I smell the scent of the human world. Wow, it feels so good. I smell it too. It's really different from underground. Hey, damn it, it's so uncomfortable to be underground for so long. When I get out, I must have a big meal. I'll eat whatever I see. I'll eat whatever's still alive. Such a conversation was clearly transmitted into Ling Hanyu's ears. In an instant, Ling Hanyu only felt cold all over, and his mind was in a mess. He didn't know what time it was. Smell the scent of the human world. Then weren't you in the human world before? Where were you then? Different from underground? Have a big meal. Eat whatever you see. Then, what if you see me? Ling Hanyu's great ambition disappeared without a trace. His whole body was trembling like a sieve, and he only felt the front and back of his lower body aching. Suddenly, he couldn't help but feel a burning sensation in his crotch. Fuck, what's that smell? The monster underground complained. It can't be that we dug into a toilet, right? We can't be so unlucky, right? Another monster said. Fuck, won't we know if we go up and take a look? What if a big pile of feces comes down from above? That thing isn't easy to bear. Hearing this, Ling Hanyu spurted out the front and back of Ling Hanyu's lower body. Oh my god, it's really that. You go up first. No, it's better that you go up first. On the ground, that lone black hand, along with half of its jet black arm, was shaking violently. Ling Hanyu sat down on the ground, and was directly bewitched. A voice scolded, let's go out together. Then, in the next moment, under Ling Hanyu's dumbfounded gaze, a black human head popped out from the graveyard with a whoosh. His face was completely black, and his hair was all stuck together. His appearance was grotesque, and only his 2 eyeballs were black and white. The head popped out and instantly met the eyes of Ling Hanyu, who was sitting on the ground. Fuck. You gave me a big scare. There's still a living person here. The lonely human head on the ground said. Then, the lonely hand on the other side actually waved and asked, Little, who are you? I'm Mother. Mother. Ling Hanyu burst into tears. Suddenly, his snot and tears flowed down. Don't eat me. The human head stared at this little one in surprise, and suddenly flew into a rage. Who are you calling mother? A voice below said in surprise, there's such a thing. Then, With a whoosh, another human head popped out from the side. The two human heads stood side by side on the ground, looked at Ling Hanyu, and commented, "This little one called you mother? Ha 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 ha. There's such a thing. Let me see, let me see." In an instant, heads popped out from the ground of the graveyard, one after another. Chapter 1296. Poof. One. Poof. Another. Poof. Ling Hanyu sat on the ground, unable to move at all, as if his body had been nailed to the ground. He wanted to close his eyes, but his eyelids refused to listen to his command and actually couldn't close them. He just stared with his eyes wide open. He stared with fear. Only something was flowing out uncontrollably from his crotch. "Mom, there's one. There's a whole ghost. A whole one." Looking at the row of human heads in front of him, looking at this graveyard, it just so happened to be a grave. Could it be? Could it be? The next moment, next to each of the human heads, a jet black arm stretched out in unison. All 5 fingers were jet black, the joints cracking as they pointed at Ling Hanyu at the same time. Ling Hanyu's eyes widened to their limits. The next moment, he fainted softly, too, terrifying. He had fainted, so naturally he didn't hear what this person said. "Damn it, so smelly. Interrogation Officer 1, this person was so scared by you that he peed and pooped. Who is this person?" "I don't know. Looking at his attire, he looks like someone from the Ling clan, and his status isn't low either." "Someone from the Ling clan? And his status isn't low either. Just like that, he peed?" Ha ha ha. There was a burst of laughter. Immediately, Chu Yang urged, "Quick, quick, get out, don't just show your head." I understand why this person is so scared. So that's why, and this is a graveyard." Everyone was speechless. What a coincidence. With a whoosh, Chu Yang took the lead and jumped out. Then, like pulling out carrots, everyone jumped out one by one. The others all hid far away, so Interrogation Officer 1 naturally grabbed Ling Hanyu without hesitation. They had to figure out where they were and what the situation was, right? And although this little one in front of them was a little smelly, he was also the most suitable candidate. Ling Hanyu felt like he had an extremely terrifying nightmare. In the dream, it was extremely terrifying. He woke up, but the moment he did, he felt that something was wrong with him, as if. He looked down. He couldn't help but let out a strange cry. Right in front of his chest, a big jet black hand grabbed his collar and lifted him up. He looked up. Interrogation 1 lowered his head and grinned. "Little one, what's your name?" However, Ling Hanyu immediately saw his mouth full of white teeth, and bent down. "He's going to eat me. He's going to eat me." In an instant, his spirit collapsed and he let out a high-pitched scream. Then, his body shook violently and he spat out a mouthful of green mucus from his mouth. Then, mouthful after mouthful of blood. His aura was weak. Then, he straightened his body and trembled. His eyes rolled back, his body trembled, and he stopped breathing. Interrogation 1 was stunned. "What's wrong with this person?" Chu Yang moved closer to take a look. He couldn't help but sigh. His gallbladder ruptured from fear. Extreme fear ruptured his heart. Interrogation Officer 1, you're amazing. You directly scared an expert to death, and an important figure of the Ling clan at that. Worthy of being a law enforcer, worthy of being from the torture hall. Sharp indeed. Interrogation Officer 1 was instantly dumbfounded. With a swing of his arm, he tossed Ling Hanyu out. Is there a need for that? Fuck, such guts, to actually come out and make a living in the pugilistic world. I really have to hand it to you. What kind of people have the Ling clan raised? You can't even get any information out of them. At this moment. Who are you, ghosts? Let go of our fourth master. A voice roared violently, but it sounded as if it was trying to boost his courage. He saw 7 people flying towards him at high speed. These people were Ling Hanyu's personal bodyguards. At first, they didn't dare to disturb the fourth master as he comforted the dead. They only watched from afar, but after a while, they felt that something was wrong. Because the fourth master suddenly sat down and was even mumbling for his mother, the tombstone blocked their line of sight, so they couldn't see at all that there were actually so many human heads on the ground. They could only sigh inwardly. The fourth master's life was really tough. He lost his mother at a very young age. Now, he was reminded of the past. He thought of his mother. It was really pardonable. Sexual lovers. Then, the situation became even more wrong. To think that a dirty, burly man had actually appeared. And he grabbed the fourth master. Then, the fourth master let out a scream. Then, there was no sound. What was going on? Looking at this eerie graveyard, everyone's hearts were pounding. The 7 of them gathered their courage and hurried over. Before they arrived, they were already exhaling. If they were really ghosts, with so many living people's young energy, they would definitely be able to disperse them, once the 7 of them came over. Over here, the 7 of them also went up to welcome them. Other than Chu Yang and Wei Wuyan, the other 7 all went up to welcome them in high spirits. It was really suffocating to death in this underground place. 7 sounds rang out in succession. Before they could even move their limbs, the 7 of them were swiftly and neatly captured and brought to justice, so nimble that even Chu Yang was a little surprised. Damn it, even I, the author, didn't think of how to describe the moves and they were already captured. It was really a little bullying. 7 supreme martial artists against 7 monarch level. This was no longer a battle. In fact, it couldn't even be considered a game. Looking at Interrogation Officer 1 and the others interrogating each of them, Chu Yang felt a little dizzy. These were the people sent by the Ling clan. With such cultivation, they could actually force the Li clan to retreat step by step. Could this not be a dream? Even this supreme martial artist had to dig a tunnel to escape, but after escaping, he realized that the people he was worried about were being defeated by a group of monarch level. Damn it. Chu Yang cursed. He was extremely displeased. After a while, listening to Interrogation Officer 1 and the others' reports, Chu Yang also gradually sorted out some thoughts. Regarding the interrogation of WN Renjie and the others, Chu Yang didn't even listen to them. In this aspect, who could be more experienced than the interrogation officers? These people weren't the main force of the Ling clan. Ling Hanyu was only the highest commander here in name, representing the clan. In reality, there was someone else. However, the highest level commander was only a saint-level martial saint. After all, it was just harassment. The Li clan did indeed have concerns. Although to the Li clan, any supreme martial artist wasn't enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. But they were still wary of taking action. Because, other than the Zhuge clan, the rest of the people sent by the 8 superclans were all such people. If you touched them, you would be declaring war, and the 8 superclans were waiting for war. If you dared to touch them? Of course not. Therefore, the situation here was very delicate. After listening to all the reports, Chu Yang frowned and thought for a long time before he said decisively, "Now, let's deal with the tunnel first. Don't let anyone find out. Take a bath. Change your clothes, change into the Li clan's clothes. So on and so on. Then we'll part ways. Okay. Let's just leave before we leave. Let's give the Li clan a big gift." Half a day later, when the Ling clan realized that the 4th master had gone to daydream again and hadn't returned for a long time, they sent people out to look for him. They found 8 corpses. On the corpses, on the Ling clan's iconic white robes, 4 words were written in blood: "Get out of the northwest." Other than that, there were no other clues. Under the cold moonlight, under the pure white snow, in a graveyard, these 4 words were written on the corpses. The warning was indescribable. Li clan. The slender eyes of the Ling clan expert shone brightly. The Li clan has finally made their move. Send a message to the clan immediately and report the news of the 4th master's death. Ask the second batch of supreme martial artist experts to come and help quickly. Everyone. Retreat 150 miles and be on high alert. Yes. This night was destined to be an unusual one. The conflict with the Li clan a while ago caused the people of the various clans to retreat 50 miles. Their nerves for battle were at their most tensed moment. The Li clan had made their move again. The moment they made their move, they were supreme martial artist. It was said that the Ling clan was the first to suffer. Next was the Shi clan. The Shi clan was ambushed by 3 supreme martial artists and suffered heavy casualties. Furthermore, Shi Chengshu, a direct descendant of the Shi clan, was killed. The Lan clan was ambushed by supreme martial artists. More than 30 people were killed or injured. They received a warning from the other party, get out of the northwest. Otherwise, kill them all. The Yi clan, the Xiao clan, none of the 8 superclans were spared. This night, blood flowed like a river. The law enforcement officers' camp was also ambushed. The number of law enforcement officers in the northwest was exceptionally high. The Li clan seemed to have identified the law enforcement officers and their killers were brutal. Furthermore, it was said that someone among them said, even if the Dharma Supreme comes personally, he must get out of the northwest. This sentence was extremely powerful. It made the law enforcement officers go crazy. The border area of the northwest was in an uproar. Countless spiritual beasts flew into the sky, bringing with them a sense of suffocation as they flew in all directions. This was already the second emergency message. 3 days later, the same attack happened again. At this time, the reinforcements of the various superclans had not arrived yet. Of course, they were defeated again. Furthermore, the losses were even greater. After a night of fleeing, the various superclans realized that they had returned to the starting point. The entire northwest, the territories that had been taken over by them during this period of time, had returned to the Li clan. Furthermore, they were vaguely expanding outward. Out of the 500 law enforcement officers, 378 of them had died, leaving only the remnants of the defeated troops. The Li clan was indeed scheming something. Furthermore, to be able to make such a move, they must have something to rely on. Furthermore, after the Li clan chased the various superclans out, they immediately gathered them back. The Li clan actually didn't send anyone to guard the large areas of land that had been given up by the various superclans. However, a bloody line was clearly drawn in front of the stone tablet of the various superclans' distribution of power. It was obvious that this was just a demonstration. All the superclans, don't fail to appreciate our kindness. If you cross this line again, you will definitely die. The spiritual beasts flew into the sky again and flew to all directions of the continent. The Li clan was too arrogant. Your clan has supreme martial artists, don't ours? It was another night. It's about time. Chu Yang stood on a small hill and said softly, all of you should go back now, sorry for the late update. After I finished writing last night, I fell asleep in a state of exhaustion. Until this afternoon, if not for Shotsai's call, I'm afraid I would still be asleep. When I woke up, my limbs were weak. It took me a long time to adjust. Very helpless. Everyone is used to my frequent updates. My outbursts have become the most effective way to get monthly votes. If I don't outburst, there will be no votes. If I want monthly votes, I have to outburst, and it must be a huge outburst, haha. I laughed bitterly. This is the first update, I will continue to write the second update. Today, there will be more outbursts, begging for votes. Chapter 1297. Everyone looked at each other, somewhat reluctant to part with each other. During this period of time, they had gone through hardships together, especially when they relied on each other. That period of time was dark, but in their hearts, it was the most memorable period of time. Because this period of time was the purest. Even the occasional scheming between them was gone. There was only the purest mutual support. Now that they were suddenly separated, everyone felt a little upset. I'll settle the law enforcement matters as soon as possible, Interrogation Officer 1 said solemnly, then I'll go to the southeast to look for you. Don't forget what I said, Chu Yang smiled. Of course. Chu Yang said, there's one more thing that you have to be careful about. After all, although you're carrying out Master Lang's last wish, to a certain extent, you're also betraying the law enforcement officers. We know, Interrogation Officer 1 and the other 3 nodded solemnly. Have a safe journey. Wan Renjie said. Cheng Juiying, Wei Wuyan, and Bao Buhuan cupped their fists at the same time. Interrogation Officer 1 slowly raised his hands and cupped his fists. Take care, brothers. After that, he looked at Wei Wuyan. Old Wei, don't die. You can't bear to part with your wife and children, But we can't bear to part with you either. Wei Wuyan's face stiffened and he forced a smile. Have a safe journey. Take care. See you next time, let's get drunk. The four of them laughed heartily and turned around to leave. Like a gust of wind blowing across the earth. They disappeared without a trace in an instant. Chu Yang, Wei Wuyan, and the others stood on the hill and watched the four figures slowly disappear into the horizon. They didn't speak. Brother Wei. What do you think? Chu Yang said slowly without turning back. Wn Renjie and the other two looked at each other and quietly retreated. They knew that Chu Yang and Wei Wuyan had something to talk about. If they stayed here, of course, it would work. But they still needed to take care of Wei Wuyan. Wei Wuyan was silent. How are your days in the underworld? Chu Yang asked solemnly. Are there any hypocrites among this group of brothers? Wei Wuyan took a deep breath and said, Brother Chu, don't worry. I won't take the initiative to seek death. Chu Yang's eyes revealed a relieved smile. Oh. Wei Wuyan revealed a helpless smile. Actually, I can't bear to part with you guys too. The two looked at each other and smiled. Wei Wuyan said, both of them are the pain in my heart forever. I really want to go. I'm scared. Without me by their side, even if it was the Netherworld's ghost domain, there would be evil spirits bullying their orphans and widows. I also want to see my wife. Tell her that I know, I understand. I'm stupid. I regret it. He smiled sadly, but other than that, I have brothers, they can't bear to part with me. I can't bear to part with them either. Wei Wuyan smiled bitterly. Now, I want to die, but I also don't want to die. It's very contradictory. But at the very least, he won't try to kill himself. Chu Yang felt relieved and said, it's good that you can think of this. Actually, in this world, there were many fake emperors like Hong Wuliang. There were also countless others. He had been deceived by them, and even, his family had been destroyed. Old Wei, now that you have such thoughts, why don't you pay more attention to it? If you can help those who have the same fate as you and break the mask of the fake emperor, wouldn't that also be a merit? Wei Wuyan's eyes lit up. That's right, wouldn't that be even better? No one knew how much Wei Wuyan hated fake emperors like Hong Wuliang. He couldn't wait to kill him. Chu Yang chuckled. In his heart, he was pondering what exactly Lang Yilang meant by those words of his. Right at this moment, he heard Wei Wuyan say, Chu Yang, although I won't think for myself, but I still have to ask you for that matter. If one day I die in battle, if you can make it in time, please, bestow upon me the heavenly orchid. Chu Yang was a little speechless at once. He said, don't worry. If one day you really die, then I will definitely fulfill your wish. Wei Wuyan felt relieved. He said, thank you. A wave of discomfort suddenly swept across Chu Yang's heart, as if he had an ominous premonition. This ominous premonition made Chu Yang feel uneasy. He quickly made a decision. Brother Wn, Brother Wei, how about you disguise yourselves and return to the southeast? Chu Yang gathered the few of them and said, return to the southeast? The four of them were startled. Yes, I'm going to do something extremely important next, Chu Yang said, but I'm worried about the four of you. After our provocation, a great battle is about to break out in this area. Besides, it has nothing to do with us at all. I'll only be at ease if all of you return to the southeast safely. Okay. Wn Renjie agreed. After this period of interaction, Wn Renjie also got rid of the knot in his heart. Originally, he felt that there were so many experts around Chu Yang, and that he and the others couldn't be of much help at all. His self-esteem was a little damaged, so he decided to just roam the martial world with Wei Wuyan. But, thinking about this now, he felt a little ridiculous. When had Chu Yang ever looked down on him just because he couldn't be of any help? Didn't that prove everything when he risked his life to save him some time ago? So what if he had to suffer some grievances for such a brother? Besides, it couldn't even be considered as grievances. On your way back this time, help me find a few people. The leader is called Nangong Shifeng, all of you know him. Chu Yang said, I've instructed them to rush to the southeast secretly, but, until I came out, I didn't see them go back. Pay attention to them along the way. If you find them, bring them back together. Then, the few of you who are experienced in the martial world, train them well. They are good material for intelligence. Wan Renjie agreed readily. He knew that from this moment on, Chu Yang had assigned them a job intelligence. He also understood what Chu Yang meant. He wanted them to have something to do, so that they wouldn't think that Chu Yang was supporting them for nothing. This was also a psychological balance for them. They couldn't help but secretly make up their minds, no matter what, they must do this intelligence work well. Let's go. We can still travel together for a while. It won't be too late for us to part ways when we reach there. Chu Yang turned back and looked at the northwest under the cover of the night. He smiled and said, We've done what we should do here. Whether we can fight, and to what extent, we can't decide anymore. Everyone laughed easily. Taking advantage of the darkness, they went all the way to the southeast. In the vast northwest, the Li clan was in a terrible fix to a certain extent. On the one hand, rebuilding the clan required a lot of manpower and resources. On the other hand, the few people who were chasing after them had suddenly disappeared. They couldn't find any trace of them anymore. Although they knew that the person was definitely still in the northwest and hadn't escaped, they couldn't help but feel uneasy if they didn't catch him. All the experts of the Li clan focused their attention on the inside. They weren't anxious about the outside world. All the clans had already been warned. If they still didn't know what was good for them, they would wait for them to come in first. Of course, the Li clan didn't know that after they had warned those few clans once, someone had already issued a series of warnings to the 8 superclans and law enforcement officers on their behalf. The Li clan's warnings were, of course, to target some unimportant people. But those few people only wanted to see the world in chaos. They specifically targeted the important people of the superclans. Currently, they had already created a blood debt that reached the heavens. And these blood debts would all be blamed on the Li clan. Now, the reinforcements of the superclans were already on the way. This time, those who came were all supreme martial artists, the elites of the clans. A great battle that would sweep across the northwest was about to start. But the Li clan, which was the target of public criticism, was still in the dark. But Chu Yang, as the initiator of all these, had already let go of all these, let them do whatever they wanted. The 5 of them had already escaped from the Li clan's pursuit and encirclement. Everyone didn't have any scruples. In addition, each of them had increased their cultivation by 1 stage, so they all wanted to give it a try. So this journey was really as fast as the wind and lightning. In just one morning, they had already covered a distance of 1,300 miles. There were mountains in front, reaching the clouds. There was a fork in the road. One towards the southeast, the other towards the center. It was time to part ways. Wei Wuyan smiled and pointed. He said, When we came, I remember that there was a small pub in front. Chu Yang, we're not in a hurry. How about we have a good drink before we part ways? Wan Renjie, Cheng Duiying and Bao Buhuan agreed at the same time. Chu Yang smiled and said, Okay. The 5 of them laughed and jumped up at the same time, shooting towards the bend. Suddenly, right in front of them, the sound of hoofbeats could be faintly heard. From the looks of it, a large group of people was coming. The 5 of them were surprised. Who are they? They're actually so powerful. And this sound doesn't sound like the sound of hoofbeats. Wan Renjie's face suddenly changed. He said, Are these wind-chasing beasts galloping? If so, are they the supreme martial artist wind-chasing team of the Chen clan? Supreme martial artist wind-chasing team? Chu Yang frowned. What does that mean? Among the big clans, only the Chen clan had an ancestor who obtained the secret method of taming spirit beasts by chance. He mobilized a large group of people to buy or capture a large group of 8th-grade spirit beasts, wind-chasing beasts. After taming them, he tamed them and made them his mount. According to legend, this ancestor of the Chen clan also used up his lifespan in order to tame this group of spirit beasts and passed away. From then on, no one in the Chen clan had this special ability. So, the wind-chasing beasts of the Chen clan became more and more precious. Later on, they were secretly hidden. It said that only those with the cultivation of supreme martial artist and above are qualified to tame wind-chasing beasts. WN Rengier explained, now, from the sound of it, at least 100 wind-chasing beasts are coming. Could it be that the Chen clan has mobilized supreme martial artists to the northwest? Chapter 1298. Chu Yang grunted. Then, he looked pensive as he said, "That's really fast. The Chen clan is considered far away. I didn't expect them to be the first to arrive here." WN Rengier said, "Of course. If it's a horse, even if it's not stingy with the horse, it can only travel 1,300 miles in a day and night. And only the best horses can do that. But this wind-chasing beast, as an 8th grade spirit beast, can run 5,000 miles in a day, and after a night's rest, it can fully recover the next day." "I see," Chu Yang pondered, but he was thinking about the secret taming technique. "This technique is not bad." The sword spirit said in his mind, "It's indeed a good technique. I also don't know when the Chen clan got such a technique." Chu Yang was speechless. "I just want to know where it came from." "You said you don't know either. However, there used to be a beast master school in Tian Q a long time ago. It had already been extinct for tens of thousands of years." The sword spirit's next words finally cut to the main point. That ancestor of the Chen family must have somehow obtained a bit of inheritance. No wonder he died after exhausting his life. "What do you mean?" Chu Yang was suddenly interested. "The Beast Master School is a technique in the Imperial Court. In the Imperial Court, there's endless spiritual energy to support it. Naturally, there's nothing to worry about. But in the heavenly layer, it can only rely on its own internal energy. With this internal energy, it's fine if he can tame a few beasts as his mounts. But he actually tamed so many. If he doesn't die, who will?" The sword spirit said disdainfully. "So, if this technique is in the Imperial Court, there are no restrictions?" Chu Yang's eyes lit up. The sword spirit snorted and said, "Otherwise, how do you think the Beast Master School was destroyed? Because this technique is too heaven-defying. Think about it, a person can control thousands of spirit beasts. With such strength, how can a sect be formed? Sooner or later, it'll be a big problem. So, it should be destroyed as soon as possible. Of course, I don't believe that there are no restrictions. It's just that I don't know the secret of that technique, so I can't say." The sword spirit's words came to an end. Chu Yang was lost in thought. Dust flew in the distance, like a black cloud approaching rapidly. A moment ago, it was still dozens of miles away. In the next moment, it was right in front of him. A large group of yellow-robed men arrived with a loud rumble. Seeing the color of the signboard, everyone immediately knew that they were indeed from the Chen family. Chu Yang and the other 4 didn't want to cause any trouble. So, they simply flew to the hillside on one side of the road. Chu Yang finally got a clear look at the appearance of this wind-chasing beast. This kind of spirit beast looked like a mule or horse, but it was shorter than a horse and had a longer body. It was covered in black fur. His 4 legs were short and thick. Its hooves were thick and its eyes were ferocious. There was a spacious cushion on the back, and the Chen family members sat on it. The wind-chasing beast traveled at high speed, but the people on it did not move at all. They did not feel any vibrations at all. Even those who were good at riding could sleep on it to replenish their energy. It was indeed a good item. Chu Yang sighed in his heart. No wonder they were able to travel the furthest distance in the shortest amount of time, and even beat the other families. In the next moment, the people from the Chen clan would be able to pass by. But at this moment, the leader suddenly squinted his eyes and raised his hand. A whistle was thrown into the air as it spun in the air. With a swoosh, dust formed a yellow cloud and flew over. But these 100-odd people stopped in an orderly manner. The leader patted the head of the wind-chasing beast under him. The wind-chasing beast turned around and actually faced Chu Yang and the other 4. This person was dressed in a bright yellow robe and had a thin figure. Although he was riding on the wind-chasing beast, But it was also obvious that this person was definitely tall. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. At this moment, he was looking at Chu Yang and the other four expressionlessly. He shouted, "Come down." Chu Yang was a little depressed at once. What was going on? We all made way for you, and even we were trying to avoid you. They had already hidden on the hillside, and yet they still suffered such treatment. Could they still be reasonable? Chu Yang held back his anger. He gave a look to tell him to bear with it before floating down. He really had to bear with it. This was a cavalry troop with a total of 110 people, and even the weakest one was a first-grade supreme martial artist. As for the leader who was speaking, he was actually an 8th-grade supreme martial artist. It seemed that the Chen clan had mobilized their secret forces this time. Thinking of this, Chu Yang even felt a little proud. The reason why the Chen clan mobilized their secret forces must be because they thought that the Li clan's actions this time had something to do with the Tribulation Swordmaster. And these people looked like they were here to reinforce the Chen clan in the northwest to deal with the Li clan, but in fact, they were here to deal with the Tribulation Swordmaster. But no matter what, it was certain that these people would go up against the Li clan, since the Chen clan had already made such a decision. Then, what about the other clans? If they all made such a decision, that would be great. May I know what's the matter, Elder? Chu Yang and the other four had already disguised themselves, so they didn't have to worry about being recognized as extraterrestrial demons or other bullshit matters. At this moment, they were very calm. The yellow-robed elder's eyes flashed and he said indifferently, "What are your names? Where are you from? Which clan are you from?" He asked 3 questions in a row, and a sense of bossiness hit them in the face. As if he was the master and could do whatever he wanted to the ants under his rule, Wei Wuyen and the other 3 only felt a rush of anger in their chests. Chu Yang waved his hand to stop their anger and said, "Since Elder has asked, we will naturally answer your questions one by one." As he spoke, he said their names. Of course, they were all fake names. As for where they came from the northwest. You came from the northwest? The yellow-robed elder's eyes were half closed. He asked indifferently, "How's the situation there?" Instantly, more than 200 gazes were directed at the 5 of them. Chu Yang and the other 4 simultaneously felt as if more than 200 arrows had been shot on their faces at the same time. Their skin actually hurt faintly. The northwest is in chaos. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. "We originally went to carry out a mission, but we couldn't go deep at all, so we could only return from where we came from. I'm afraid that a great war may break out at any time. It would be such a pity if we were implicated." "You are blood pairs?" The yellow-robed elder's eyes lit up. "Yes." "You don't belong to any clan?" "Yes." The yellow-robed elder looked at the 5 of them maliciously. He said indifferently, 5 second-grade supreme martial artists. "Yes, 5 second-grade supreme martial artists. Little one, tell me about the situation in the northwest first." "The situation in the northwest is like this. The Li clan has already gone crazy." Chu Yang looked as if he still had lingering fears. He tried his best to exaggerate the tense situation in the northwest. "So the situation is already so bad?" The yellow-robed elder muttered to himself. "Yes, the Li clan drew a bloodline with the blood of the experts of the various clans. They made it clear that if anyone dared to cross the bloodline again, they would be killed without mercy." Chu Yang said, "Currently, there are signs of war, and it could break out at any moment. Once war breaks out, the consequences will be unimaginable." The yellow-robed elder made a no sound. A trace of disdain flashed across his eyes. He muttered, "A mere Li clan, dares to be so arrogant. If Elder has no other important matters to ask, we will leave now." "We will take our leave now," Chu Yang said. Since he had already lit the fire, then he should leave quickly to prevent himself from being implicated. "No hurry." The yellow-robed elder's eyes flashed. He said, "The 5 of you. What future does being blood pairs have? Don't tell me you don't have any plans for the future." Chu Yang instantly realized that things were bad. Could it be that this old fellow wants to take them in? He smiled and said, "The 5 of us are used to being free and unrestrained. We can't stand being restrained. Although being a blood pair is dangerous, it's also colorful and free. Elder, thank you for your concern. We will leave now. The yellow-robed elder's eyes relaxed. 2 cold bolts of lightning shot out from them. Who said that you can leave? Chu Yang, Wei Wuyan, and the others were stunned. I'll give the 5 of you 2 choices. First, join the Chen clan and become its servants. Second, die. The yellow-robed elder's voice was very normal, as if he was talking about a trivial matter. If it weren't for the troubled times and the need for manpower, I really wouldn't be interested in the 5 of you. Now, why don't you hurry up and thank me for my kindness? Someone at the back laughed. It's rare that the elder is actually interested in the few of you. Why don't you kneel down and kowtow to thank him? What are you waiting for? Chu Yang and the other 4 couldn't restrain the anger on their faces anymore. Damn it. I've never seen such an unreasonable person. I've already made it very clear that I don't like being restrained. This old fellow actually forced himself on me. Are you cold now? Wu Jueqing put his hands behind his back. They walked on the mountain path smoothly. When they were at the Yi clan's base, it was still midsummer. However, when they came here, the trees on both sides had already fallen, as if it was late autumn. Thousands of miles of walking, it was both cold and hot. It's still okay. Chu Le said discontentedly, Teacher, I'm a martial saint expert. I'm already immune to both heat and cold. Don't always treat me like a child. Wu Jueqing laughed and said, In front of me, you're just a child. I see that your understanding of poison seems to have deepened again these few days. Yes, teacher. Chu Le was a little happy, but she immediately changed the topic. Teacher, how long more do we have to walk to reach the northwest? I don't know how my big brother is doing. You're not in a hurry either. After crossing this mountain, we'll reach the northwest in less than 2,000 miles. Wu Jueqing smiled and said, Your big brother will be fine. Besides, even if something happens, it'll be too late by the time you arrive. So, don't be anxious. Me. Chu Le turned around unhappily and murmured, If anything happens to my big brother, don't even think about leaving a single person alive in the entire Northwest. And the law enforcement officers. Don't even think about leaving a single person alive. Wu Jueqing was greatly comforted. He said, That's more like the poison doctor's younger brother. Chu Le said hatefully, especially that Dharma Supreme, I want to capture him. I want to torture him 100 times a day and torture him for 100 years. A chill went down Wu Jueqing's spine. Cough, such torture. She's already surpassed her master. Chapter 1299. Le, why do you hate the Dharma Supreme so much? Asked Wu Jueqing. Chu Le rolled her eyes and said, I heard that the Dharma Supreme had once deceived you and is a great enemy of yours. Therefore, I must avenge you no matter what and help you vent your anger. How can he make an enemy out of you? He deserves to die, said Chu Le, filled with righteous indignation. Even though he knew that his disciple was just trying to suck up to him, and that the reason she wanted to torture the Dharma Supreme was definitely because the Dharma Supreme had created rumors about Chu Yang, saying that Chu Yang was an extraterrestrial demon. These words really lacked the slightest bit of truth, but Wu Jueqing was still greatly comforted. Chu Le smiled and said, Yes, I will beat up anyone who offends my teacher. Teacher, you will help me, right? Yes, said Wu Jueqing. But I praised you not because you want to avenge me. Then why? Asked Chu Le, perplexed. That's because my disciple has already reached the point where she doesn't even blush when lying. Speaking words that even she herself doesn't believe in with an absolutely truthful tone. This is really not a waste of Master's teachings. Master is at ease, said Wu Jueqing. Ayaya. Teacher. Chu Le said shyly, I am not that good. Wu Jueqing rolled his eyes and sighed. This mischievous and eccentric disciple really gave Master Wu a huge headache. Smart, too smart. Having a photographic memory and being able to deduce other things from one instance was normal. Drawing parallels and finding new insights was normal. But she was just a little too smart. Sometimes, she was so smart that she could treat her teacher as a fool. For example, they could lie with their eyes wide open but still look sincere and cute. Or they could pretend to be innocent when they don't believe you at all. Or they could secretly tease you and still look pitiful. Or they could know everything but still act like they don't know anything. The only consolation was that his disciple was extraordinarily diligent in her cultivation and her progress was extraordinarily fast. This made Wu Jueqing, who was a first-time teacher, feel a sense of satisfaction. Especially after leaving the Yi clan, Wu Jueqing had once unintentionally asked what treasures she had found in the Yi clan's treasury. Chu Le looked embarrassed and said, "Seeing that their family is an old friend of Master's, I didn't have the nerve to take too much. I only took a few that I've never seen before." She was going to give it to Big Brother. It was said that Big Brother liked it a lot. Wu Jueqing was so infuriated that he almost died on the spot. He kept sighing. Silly girl, how can you be so honest? This is really a case of entering a treasure mountain but returning empty-handed. This really makes this old man sigh. Thus, Wu Jueqing got Chu Le to take out the items for him to appraise. At the same time, he also had to teach his disciple, "Don't be so honest in the future. Just pick the good stuff when I tell you to. Well, it's not ours anyway, it's a waste not to take it." However, Chu Le had just taken out the soul of the purple crystal and the jade snow spirit ginseng. Wu Jueqing was already on the verge of passing out. Was he too embarrassed to take it? When the monarch sword was taken out, Wu Jueqing was already shaking his head and sighing. Imagining Yi Chunchen's awful countenance, he was already somewhat gloating. But if he took out the heavenly lunar treasure and other items, Wu Jueqing was left speechless. He had to admit that he was getting old. In any case, if he had gone in himself, he wouldn't have been able to get any of these items. "Teacher, are these items okay?" Upon hearing Chu Le's words, Wu Jueqing had the urge to vomit blood. Okay. They were practically too okay. And too full. "I reckon Yi Chen must be crying right now." Wu Jueqing guessed maliciously. "How did you do it?" Wu Jueqing asked his disciple. Chu Le put on a shy and pitiful expression. "Nothing much. I just let each of them have a taste of the two items that teacher said were pretty good. In exchange, they also took out items that were better than the rest for me to appraise. That's all." When Wu Jueqing heard this, he had a strong urge to announce to his disciple right there and then, "You've already completed your apprenticeship. This kind of ruthlessness and shamelessness, this old man really can't compare to you even after cultivating for a lifetime. How shameful." "Teacher, are there a lot of experts in the Northwest?" Chu Le asked. "I keep hearing people talking about the Northwest these few days. It seems like the Yi clan is also on their way there. There are quite a number of supreme martial artists, right? If you follow me, even if there are 10,000 supreme martial artists in front of you, you can ignore me. You can also ignore it," Wu Jueqing said conceitedly. When he said this, there was a very invincible aura and a kind of loneliness at the top. What he meant was, "Disciple, you didn't acknowledge the wrong teacher." Chu Le was very dissatisfied at once. She pouted and said, "Teacher is so annoying. Who told you to boast? I'm asking. Is it dangerous for Big Brother Chu in the Northwest?" Wu Jueqing instantly felt like a fly had suddenly flown in while he was enjoying a table full of delicious food. He said fiercely, "In my eyes, there are no experts in the Northwest. But in front of that Big Brother of yours, there are experts everywhere. Any one of them can tear him apart 7 or 8 times in the blink of an eye. With that lousy cultivation of his, I can crush him to death with just a little finger. A breath of air can suffocate him to death, and a fart can kill him. To think he actually came out to roam the martial world." The more Wu Jueqing spoke, the more he gritted his teeth. The more he spoke, the more satisfied he felt. It was as if he had already killed that Chu Yang who had ruined his good mood with a fart. Chu Le's little face darkened. She looked at him very unkindly. "Teacher, oh, good disciple. It was quite fun when I grabbed your beard and swung it on the swing the last time." Chu Le rubbed her palms together. Let's do it again. It was quite fun when you grabbed my beard and swung it on the swing the last time. Wu Jueqing's old face twitched and he hurriedly corrected himself. Actually, your big brother is still fine in the northwest. He is young and handsome, and his cultivation is not low either. He has good manners and is also an upright person. Generally, no one would bully a gentleman like him. After all, the martial world nowadays is still very particular about rules. As Wu Jueqing spoke, his stomach churned. Hu hu hu. Chula Er's eyes turned into crescents. This girl loved it when people praised her big brother the most. No matter what it was, as long as her big brother was praised at the beginning, she would immediately listen with great interest. What else? What else, teacher? Chula urged excitedly. What other benefits does my big brother have? Wu Jueqing's face turned green. Your big brother is handsome, suave, elegant, kind, reasonable, well-mannered, elegant, with dashing brows and bright eyes, benevolent and happy to help others. Ugh, eh. There seems to be a sound in front. Chula Er's ears had always been very sharp. There is a sound, but it's still 20 miles away. Wu Jueqing said, and it's over there. Let's not join in the fun and hurry to the northwest to find your big brother. Okay. Chula Er nodded obediently. There was indeed a sound, and it was not small. Elder, you are kind. I appreciate it. Chu Yang politely declined the other party's invitation. Little one, do you think that what I say is just fart? The yellow-robed elderly man opposite him had a dangerous look in his eyes. That's not true. It's just that we cannot be restrained. Even if, I'm afraid that we will break the rules of your clan. Me. Whether we break the rules or not, I have the final say. Today, this old man has already spoken his mind. If you don't agree, you are not giving me face. If you don't give me face, why should I give you face? You will definitely die in front of me. Little one, think carefully. The yellow-robed elderly man looked at the five of them coldly. I have a bad temper. You only have one breath's time. I will count to 3. If you don't agree, you will die. As he spoke, he raised 3 fingers. 1. He wanted to recruit the 5 of them, of course, with ill intentions. The Chen clan's wind-chasing supreme martial artist team was too rare. Because 8th grade wind-chasing beasts were just that. Spirit beasts were hard to tame. There was no need to mention it. And that elder master was also dead. Taming spirit beasts was also impossible. Even the offspring of these existing wind-chasing beasts. Even though they were freely reared, they were still wild and hard to tame. They could fight alone, but once they cooperated with their masters, they would be full of mistakes. The wildness and pride of 8th grade spirit beasts could not be erased without beast taming techniques. As a result, the cubs could not be used at all. As a result, the 300 wind-chasing beasts were extremely loyal to their current masters. If one of the current team members died, they could then announce that even though that wind-chasing beast was not dead, it was also useless. Therefore, every time they went out on a mission. So they were extra cautious. Every time, they would find a few scapegoats along the way. Or cannon fodder. These people were mainly used in the periphery, or for scouting, or for other cannon fodder positions. Of course, in the past, they would promise great benefits or a bright future, but this time, they were in too much of a hurry. Once they heard that the Tribulation Sword Master had appeared, the clan master immediately gave the order. The wind-chasing cavalry set off overnight and did not find any suitable goods along the way. Now, they finally found them, and 5 of them at once. Time was too tight. How could they be interested in taking it slow? Unwilling. I will beat you until you are willing. You have a bad temper. Chu Yang was almost amused by him. His eyes slowly shone. He said lightly, you have a bad temper, but my temper is also not good. The 4 people behind him were already so angry that they were about to explode. Chu Yang could not bear it anymore. Humans fought for their dignity, and Buddhas fought for their incense. After being forced to such an extent, if he could still endure it, then he wouldn't be a man. Although he was not as strong as the other party and the situation was worse, Chu Yang would never give in. What was the Chen clan? How could they let him be a slave? The yellow-robed elder slowly raised his eyebrows and looked at Chu Yang from the corner of his eyes. You have a bad temper too? Chu Yang's mouth revealed a mocking smile. He said lightly, You make me unhappy. The yellow-robed elder was stunned. Then, he suddenly laughed. Before he finished laughing, the four people said together, Our tempers are even worse. What are you going to do? This chapter is a bit difficult to write. I wanted to pretend to be polite and take the opportunity to escape. But as I wrote, my temper became bad. My temper is indeed not good. Chapter 1300. Ha ha ha. The yellow-robed elder laughed coldly and said, Bad temper, this is an illness. It has to be treated. Chu Yang said, If this is an illness, then, elder, we're in the same boat. Why don't we treat it together? The yellow-robed elder said coldly, No one can treat my illness. But I can treat your illness. Chu Yang smiled. Only a divine doctor can treat it. The yellow-robed elder's face became colder and colder. He waved his hand lightly. Take down this arrogant man. Teach him a lesson. Instantly, a dozen wind-chasing beasts, along with their masters, came forward. Wait! Chu Yang shouted and took 2 steps back hurriedly. As Chu Yang retreated, his sleeves swayed naturally. Some strange substances, under the control of the sword spirit in the tribulation space, scattered in the air. They were colorless and odorless. He took 2 steps back hurriedly, seemingly in a panic. He had already gathered with Wei Wuyan and the others. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to them, Once they take action, leave immediately. Go up the cliff to the other side of the mountain. Wei Wuyan and the others' faces didn't change, but they had already heard it. The Chen clan obviously came up with this idea on the spur of the moment, and their main target was in the northwest. As long as they escaped, or even distanced themselves, they would definitely not chase after them. Compared to the 5 of them, the Tribulation Swordmaster and the Li clan were much more important in their hearts. Wait! The yellow-robed elder squinted his eyes. It's too late to regret now. Then, he waved his hand. Take them down. Chu Yang was shocked. Let's go. The 5 of them quickly leaped toward the mountain they had jumped down from. Below, except for the dozen people who had already caught up, the others didn't move at all. They crossed their arms and looked at the 5 of them mockingly. You actually want to escape under the pursuit of the wind-chasing team? No one had ever managed to escape before. In the blink of an eye, Chu Yang and the others had already reached the top of the mountain. Behind them, the dozen wind-chasing beasts roared and leaped up with their masters. Chu Yang and the others leaped up again, even faster this time. They rushed toward the top of the mountain, but the wind-chasing beast's name was not in vain, and the supreme martial artist experts on their backs were not in vain. More than 10 wind-chasing beasts followed closely behind, and actually caught up to Chu Yang and the others even though they started later. A sinister smile appeared on the faces of the 10 or so supreme martial artists. In their hands, a huge net was slowly spreading out. Everyone's eyes revealed a pleased smile. The yellow-robed old man's eyes were filled with sinister delight. You dare to disobey me? Later, I'll let you know what it means to be unable to live or die. In the next moment, Chu Yang and the others were about to be captured. It was at this moment that something unbelievable happened. The 12 wind-chasing beasts that had already leapt into the air suddenly cried out at the same time. The 12 supreme beings above let out a muffled groan at the same time. Then, hualala, the 12 wind-chasing beasts and the 12 supreme beings fell down like 24 stones. Cough. Someone asked why it was 24 yuan. A supreme martial artist riding on the back of a wind-chasing beast could only be considered as 12 boulders, but that was the problem. The wind-chasing beasts were very heavy, but the supreme martial artists were very light. Therefore, one after the other, it was exactly 24 boulders that fell from the sky. Cough. From this, it could be seen that the density of the bodies of spirit beasts and humans was different, and Chu Yang and the others rose rapidly. They were about to reach the top of the mountain and were about to leave everyone's line of sight. Everyone below almost couldn't react in time. This. What's going on? Shadowless poison. The yellow-robed old man roared angrily. He took a step forward and shouted, "Catch them." The next moment, his body was already hundreds of feet in midair. He struck out with his palm. This palm strike was launched with fury. Instantly, the sound of wind and thunder rang in the air. All of a sudden, cracks appeared in the surrounding air, and several black spatial cracks flashed and disappeared. After that, only then did the sound of wind that sounded like the roar of an old dragon. The palm strike was like a cannonball that shot out of the barrel, blasting fiercely. In the air, it transformed into an extremely huge golden hand that was hundreds of feet in radius. It seemed to cover the sun in the sky as it smacked down fiercely. Although it was launched later, it reached first. Chu Yang and the others were only one step away from reaching the top of the mountain. But at this moment, a feeling of death suddenly arose in everyone's hearts. A kind of pressure that belonged purely to hell came from the air. It made the five of them breathless. "Go quickly," Chu Yang roared. At this moment, the sword spirit took over his body. A ray of sword light shot out like a waterfall. It turned into a hurricane that was like a furious dragon and met the huge golden palm head-on. Sword intent. Although it couldn't fully exert the full power of the sword intent, this blow was no small matter. Boom! The sword light and the palm collided in the air. Chu Yang let out a cry and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flew up unconsciously. The sword light dissipated, and the sword spirit directly fell into the tribulation space as if he had lost consciousness. Chu Yang's consciousness immediately took over his body, but he found that his 5 internal organs were almost ruptured. He hurriedly ate the incomplete version of the heavy pill, forcibly stabilized his body, and flew towards the top of the mountain. Wei Wuyan and the others also turned pale when they saw the remaining power. The huge golden palm in the air suddenly dimmed. Below, the yellow-robed old man's face suddenly turned pale. His body shook violently, and a look of disbelief shot out from his eyes. But the huge golden palm that had already dimmed didn't relax at all. It just paused and paused for a moment. Then, it slapped down again. Although its power was far less than the previous time, it was still unstoppable. He had also calculated that after Chu Yang blocked it this time, he wouldn't have the ability to block it a second time. The yellow-robed old man already had the intention to kill. He was really angry. He had to kill these 5 people on the top of the mountain like swatting flies. Chu Yang sighed in his heart and drew out the tribulation sword again. Even if he had to risk his life, he had to block it once. Otherwise, even if he could escape, the other 4 would definitely die. Looking at the mountain that was only 30 feet away from him, he felt powerless. At this moment, a howl that sounded like that of a dying beast sounded beside him. This howl was full of resentment and desperation. Wei Wuyan! Wei Wuyan howled. The muscles on his face were all distorted, and the scars on his face were all twisted weirdly. He suddenly twisted his waist in the air and hit the backs of Dublin Rengier and the other 2 with 3 palms. The tyrannical palm force hit the 3 high up in the air. Then, he suddenly turned around and pounced backward. In an instant, he was in front of Chu Yang and kicked Chu Yang's stomach crazily. Chu Yang screamed. Caught off guard, he was kicked high up into the air and over the top of the mountain. And Wei Wuyan howled with the recoil force. He roared. A black shadow burst out from his whole body and rushed towards the big golden hand that was slapping down rapidly. He had already gone crazy. This madness that came from the bottom of his heart made Wei Wuyan's strength seem to have increased by a few levels. An unparalleled power was unleashed. His body was flying rapidly. The black fog on his body was also getting thicker and thicker. He rushed towards the big golden hand without changing his direction. Wei Wuyan couldn't help but go crazy. In this world, what I treasured the most since the beginning. My parents are gone. They were killed by villains. My wife and children, whom I treasured the most, are gone. They were killed by my stupidity. They died unjustly and miserably. Then, the master-disciple relationship that I relied on for my whole life was shattered one day and turned into a huge scam. Now, I have nothing left. I'm only left with these few brothers. Friends. But, my most treasured friends and brothers, You want to kill them too? Kill them in front of me? Ah tilde 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 Wei Wuyan screamed crazily, I'm still here. Who dares to touch them? I'm still here. Who dares to touch them? His voice was full of pain and despair, full of regret, full of resentment. When his parents died, he was muddle-headed. When his wife and children died, he was muddle-headed. He wanted to rush to them when they were in danger. Then, he would roar and step forward bravely. Protect his family. But, he didn't manage to do it. He didn't even see them for the last time. Now, this roar was like a challenge to the heavens. An unyielding battle cry in the face of fate. I'm still here. Who dares to touch them? Wei Wuyan turned into a wisp of black smoke and rushed out. The next moment, there was a loud bang. Wei Wuyan's 17 consecutive palms hit the golden hand. This period of time was too short. He only had time to hit 17 palms. Boom boom boom, amidst the continuous explosions, Wei Wuyan spurted out blood. His whole body was used as a weapon and collided violently with the golden hand. A space crack suddenly appeared in the sky and then disappeared. The golden hand suddenly disappeared. On the ground, the yellow-robed elder's body shook violently. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His face turned purple and then red. After 5 such changes, his face regained its white color. With a cry, he spat out a mouthful of blood. This time, the sword spirit used all his strength to control the sword intent. 70 to 80% of the attack's power had been neutralized. Then, Wei Wuyan used his own life and soul to collide with the attack. Finally, the attack dissipated. The whole mountain shook violently. Wei Wuyan's body lost all senses and consciousness. He flew backward. Along the way, his body was like a tattered gunny sack. Blood splattered everywhere. Chu Yang's feet had just stepped on the top of the mountain when the mountain shook violently. But he didn't care at all. He tiptoed and flew out to meet Wei Wuyan's body that was flying backward. Wn Renjie and the other 2 had already crossed the mountain. But at this moment, they climbed back desperately and watched anxiously. Wei Wuyan's body slammed into Chu Yang's arms. The strong impact made Chu Yang's ribs creak, and one of them broke. Chu Yang didn't let go of Wei Wuyan, he held Wei Wuyan tightly. The huge force made Chu Yang's body fly backwards. Blood spurted out from the corner of Chu Yang's mouth. He tried his best to concentrate on checking Wei Wuyan's injuries. The next moment, he suddenly roared with great resentment, Chen Clan, it's time to start the year-end Author of the Year and Works of the Year. I hope everyone can vote for me. To be honest, I'm still coveting that golden keyboard. I hope everyone can support me. Now that the Works of the Year are behind, it's slightly better for the authors. If everyone is interested, you can put them in the Author of the Year. Thank you. In addition, our Alliance Master Long Yinyu is also competing for the Alliance Master of the Year. I hope everyone can support me. The Deputy Moderator has put in a lot of effort for the Proud World this year. I hope everyone can vote for the Deputy Moderator of the Year. Chapter 1301. On the other side of the mountain. The master and disciple were hurrying on their way. Suddenly, the heavens and earth shook. It was as if a fight between experts had caused such a huge commotion. Wu Jueqing looked at him indifferently and said, "It's fine. On the other side of the mountain, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with us." Yes. Chu Le felt a little uneasy and said, "I wonder what kind of expert could have such power. What kind of experts have nothing to do with us?" Wu Jueqing snorted and said, "They're just a bunch of small fries fighting. What's there to see?" At this moment, a heart-wrenching voice suddenly cut through the air. Chen tilde family. Chu Le shuddered. It's Big Brother's voice. Big Brother is over there. Chu Yang. Wu Jueqing was also stunned. Why was he here? This was too much of a coincidence. Let's go. Chu Le didn't wait for Wu Jueqing to reply. She had already activated her movement technique and shot toward the mountain peak like an arrow leaving the bow. As she ran, she said, "Teacher, Hurry up. It must be dangerous for Big Brother to shout like that. You're fast, so you can go first. Why should I go first? Wu Jueqing was extremely dissatisfied and very uncomfortable. Why are you so scared when you hear your elder brother's voice? You actually dare to order your master around. You actually want me to go over and be the cannon fodder for your big brother. Am I such a worthless master? Seeing that Wu Jueqing actually didn't move, Chula panicked. She cried out, Teacher, if you still don't go and something happens to my big brother, I will sever all ties with you. I'll expel you from the sect. Wu Jueqing instantly felt dizzy. Expel me from the sect. This seemed to be something that only a master could say to his disciple. However, he knew that Chula was really anxious now. Wu Jueqing couldn't help but let out a long sigh. To think that I, Wu Jueqing, have dominated the world for 30,000 years. Master, hurry up and go. Chula's anxious voice interrupted Wu Jueqing's lamenting. Wu Jueqing shook his head helplessly. With a flash, he disappeared with a whoosh. Chu Yang was terrified. Wei Wuyan had completely lost his breath. In his arms, her head hung limply. Her eyes were still wide open, glaring angrily at his internal organs. Under the crazy attack of the other party, all of them were turned into dust. Sword spirit. Sword spirit. Chu Yang carried Wei Wuyan and ran. Quick. Quick. Think of something. The sword spirit had already fallen into a coma. He couldn't hear it at all. He couldn't answer Chu Yang's question. Chu Yang panicked and fed Wei Wuyan a genuine heavy pill. He also took out a piece of heaven-nourishing jade at the same time. He placed it beside Wei Wuyan's mouth. After the heavy pill went in, it had no effect at all. The heavy pill was only useful for people who were still alive. As long as they were still breathing, the heavy pill could save them. However, Wei Wuyan had lost all his vitality. His internal organs were all destroyed, and his meridians had collapsed. Even his blood vessels had stopped circulating. The heavy pill was actually powerless as well. The heaven-nourishing jade turned into a stream of light and entered Wei Wuyan's body. Wei Wuyan's soul had also been shattered by the attack just now. Although the effect of the heaven-nourishing jade was miraculous, it was only effective on a complete soul. After this piece of heaven-nourishing jade entered the body, once the heaven-nourishing jade entered Wei Wuyan's body, it could only silently collect Wei Wuyan's broken godly soul in an invisible place. It couldn't revive him. Chu Yang ran frantically. Wn Renjie and the others followed closely behind him. Their faces were full of anxiety and grief. However, they didn't dare to ask, "How is old Wei?" Because Chu Yang had been busy. Everyone was also watching. They were afraid that they would disturb Chu Yang and cause Wei Wuyan to be unable to revive him. Behind them, nearly 100 wind-chasing beasts rose into the air under the command of a supreme martial artist and chased after them rapidly. The yellow-robed elder was at the front. "Little, where are you running to? Leave the antidote for the shadowless poison. I'll leave you with a complete corpse." Chu Yang ignored the situation behind him. He only carried Wei Wuyan and ran. He longed to find a quiet place to think of a solution. The distance between the two parties was closing rapidly. The yellow-robed elder was getting closer and closer. He was an 8th grade supreme martial artist. His speed was extremely fast. Although he was slightly injured by the attack just now, it definitely didn't affect his speed. If it wasn't for the shadowless poison, he could have already killed Chu Yang and the others at this moment. However, if Chu Yang and the others died, the antidote for the shadowless poison would also be gone. It would mean that his clan had lost 12 supreme martial artists before they even reached the battlefield. He didn't want to bear such a heavy consequence. "Little, stop." The yellow-robed old man flew past Chu Yang, and stopped in front of Chu Yang with a shua sound. His eyes were filled with tyrannical pleasure. It was these few tiny ants that could actually injure him. They could actually escape so far from him. He even poisoned 12 of his subordinates right under his nose. This was simply inconceivable. Chu Yang's figure suddenly stopped. His eyes quickly swept past both sides. In this short moment, The left and right were already filled with wind-chasing beasts. There was no way forward, no way left or right. It was even more impossible to retreat. Take out the antidote. I'll leave your corpse intact. The yellow-robed elder put his hands behind his back and said indifferently, Antidote? Chu Yang gritted his teeth and laughed. What antidote? You want to die. The yellow-robed elder flipped his sleeves and revealed 2 skinny palms. Little, don't think that you can ignore everything just because you're not afraid of death. You must know that there's a feeling in this world called being unable to live or die. Between life and death. Chu Yang smiled indifferently. So what? The situation now was already extremely bad. It could be said to be a pure hopeless situation. There was absolutely no hope of escape. 5 people. 1 was already dead. The remaining 4 second-grade supreme martial artists were surrounded by more than 100 8th-grade supreme martial artists. The weakest among them was a 1st-grade supreme martial artist. There were 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, and many more. How could they escape? However, at this moment, Chu Yang's heart suddenly relaxed. If it was destined that I, Chu Yang, would fall here, then it was nothing. It didn't matter. He also finally understood where his previous ominous feeling came from. It turned out that it was right here. It was precisely because of this ominous feeling that he insisted on traveling with Wei Wuyan and the rest for a period of time. Now, it had indeed come true here. Chu Yang was already at the end of his rope. Instead, he let go of Wei Wuyan's life and death. Since both brothers were going to die, then they would just die together. Taking a step first and taking a step later, it was the same path. Chu Yang slowly raised his head and looked at the yellow-robed elder. He smiled slightly and said, The people of the Chen clan are very good. Today, I'm going to die here. But, old thing, listen carefully. It's best that you kill me quickly. Otherwise, as long as I have a chance of survival, I swear here that I'll slaughter the entire Chen clan, not leaving even a chicken or a dog. If I violate this oath, I'll be punished by both heaven and man, Chu Yang said solemnly and cautiously. Then, he lowered his head and looked at Wei Wuyan's face. He pulled out his sword and stabbed it deeply on his wrist. Blood dripped down. This was the first time he made an oath wholeheartedly. Blood oath. Although his voice was calm, the smell of blood contained within it soared. It was filled with deep hatred and venom. Everyone who heard it couldn't help but shudder, and Chu Yang was in his heart. He repeated this oath in the name of the Tribulation Sword Master. Perhaps the yellow-robed elder didn't know, or perhaps Chu Yang didn't know, that this blood oath was the only blood oath that the Tribulation Sword Master had ever made. A ball of blood suddenly flew up from Chu Yang's body and stood in the air. It turned into a strange pattern and disappeared in the sky. The yellow-robed elder said with a fake smile, I don't need to make an oath. I can kill you now. At this moment, a tired voice said, No, you can't kill him. Who is it? The yellow-robed elder suddenly turned around. On the top of the mountain, a piece of space suddenly shook. Then, a figure in black suddenly appeared on the top of the mountain. He was hundreds of feet away from everyone. A piece of cloud rose and covered his face. His whole person seemed to be in the cloud and fog. Only a pair of cold eyes, as if tired from seeing through the world, were looking at them calmly through the cloud and fog. It's me. The black-robed man said matter-of-factly. Who are you? You dare to stop me? The yellow-robed elder's pupils contracted. He felt that the other party was an expert, but he wasn't afraid at all. With more than 100 supreme wind-chasing martial artists, even if Ning Qianya came, he would dare to fight. You're right. With me standing here, no one in the entire heavens can touch him. The black-robed man sighed softly, because I won't allow it. How arrogant. The yellow-robed elder laughed. But the next moment, the black-robed man's body flashed. Everyone only saw a blur in front of them. That thin figure had already entered the encirclement and stood in front of Chu Yang. Not a single person in the crowd had seen clearly how he had entered. The yellow-robed elder's face changed. He shouted, May I ask who you are? The black-robed elder ignored him. He turned around and put one hand on Wei Wuyan's pulse. Then, he shook his head and said to Chu Yang, "I'm afraid." Chu Yang took a deep breath and said, "But his soul is also broken. Even if I die, even if I can't save him, I have to keep his soul. I have to fulfill his wish." The black-robed man pondered for a moment and said, "If Le has the heavenly moonlight treasure, then..." He actually started to discuss Wei Wuyan's injury with Chu Yang, as if there was no one else around, even when he was surrounded by more than 100 supreme martial artists. "How dare you!" The yellow-robed elder felt a little guilty and shouted. "Shut up." The black-robed man turned around and looked at him coldly. "You're not a dog. What are you shouting for?" "Cough, I just didn't learn physics well." "Do you have to be so tearful to write the 4th chapter? Pleading for votes. All kinds of votes." Chapter 1302. Shut up. The black-robed man turned around and looked at him coldly. "You're not a dog, what are you barking for?" "You called me a dog." The yellow-robed old man was so angry that his whole body started to tremble. "How dare you? Teach this arrogant man a lesson. Who dared to call him that in thousands of years?" Now that he heard this, the yellow-robed old man almost fainted. At his command, several supreme martial artists rode forward on their wind-chasing beasts. Everyone had been waiting for this command for a long time. This black-robed man was too arrogant. Everyone couldn't wait to teach him a lesson. They knew that he was an expert, but even if he was, could he fight against so many supreme martial artists alone? What a joke. The black-robed man stood up slowly. The muscles on his face twitched, as if he was smiling. Then, he said lightly, "Someone will naturally pay for the blood debt you created. I didn't want to overstep my boundaries, but since you've delivered yourself to me, I won't be polite either." With a wave of his sleeves, 2 sleeves flew out smoothly. A ball of colorless and odorless light blue strange smoke surrounded Chu Yang and the others for 100 feet. Then, with a puff, it suddenly filled the entire mountain peak. The wind-chasing beasts carried their masters and charged forward. They charged into the light blue smoke. The next moment, suddenly, a terrifying thing happened. All the supreme martial artists and their mounts who had entered the blue smoke suddenly fell to the ground silently. The next moment, no matter if it was a human or a beast, all of them convulsed twice, and then stretched out their legs. A burst of light blue smoke rose from their bodies, and merged with the blue smoke that surrounded Chu Yang and the others. The blue smoke became even thicker. The 30 to 40 people and the 30 to 40 wind-chasing beasts that had entered this area were all lying on the ground. Their bodies were constantly emitting light blue smoke, like firecrackers that had been lit but did not explode, only emitting smoke, but whether it was man or beast, the muscles on their bodies were shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. As the blue smoke increased, the people and wind-chasing beasts on the ground silently turned into skeletons, then, with a crash, an even thicker blue smoke rose from the pale white bones and scattered on the ground, turning into a pile of white powder. Another wave of green smoke rose. Even powder like this. It also disappeared without a trace. A total of 33 supreme beings, along with 33 8th-grade wind-chasing beasts, disappeared without leaving a single trace behind. Even the spiritual beast's inner core was dissolved and turned into blue smoke. Everyone's eyes widened and their mouths gaped. Looking at this strange scene, they rubbed their eyes desperately. One of the middle-grade supreme martial artists was very close, and one of his hands had already touched the blue smoke. When he saw this, he quickly retracted his hand. With a somersault, the wind-chasing beast flipped back, only to find that blue smoke was already rising from its hand. He tried his best to stop it, but to no avail. With a fierce roar, he unsheathed his sword and chopped off his arm from his shoulder. Blood gushed out. The arm fell to the ground and jumped twice before disappearing into blue smoke. At the same time, his mount also turned into a cloud of blue smoke. On top of the mountain wind whistled, but the blue smoke didn't disperse. Vaguely, it seemed to be expanding outwards. Dead silence. Supreme demon smoke. You are Wu Juecheng. The yellow-robed elderly man shouted as if he had seen a ghost. Then, he took a few steps back, his face pale. At this moment, the smoke on the face of the black-robed man was also gone. The yellow-robed elderly man finally remembered who this black-robed man was. No wonder he felt a little familiar. There was a portrait of him in the clan, but it was better if he didn't recognize him. Now that he did, this 8th-grade supreme martial artist wanted to cry. Who would have thought that a few cannon fodders would actually provoke this great god? Yes, with nearly 100 supreme martial artists attacking together, even Ning Tianya and Bu Liuqing would be flustered. But this definitely didn't include Wu Jueqing. Wu Jueqing's poison technique didn't care about the number of enemies. As long as it wasn't a middle-grade supreme martial artist, there was no way they could resist Wu Jueqing's poison. Even if there were 10,000 of them at the same time, he would be able to wipe them all out at the same time. The black-robed man was, of course, Wu Jueqing. He said with some surprise, "So you call this poison the supreme demon smoke? I have always called it dreamy and fantasy blue. Look, isn't this blue smoke the color of dreamy and fantasy?" The yellow-robed elderly man wanted to cry. All the supreme martial artists looked at the smoke in the sky with reverence. They couldn't help but feel a wave of disgust. Yes, this color was indeed dreamy and illusory. Just by looking at it, one would feel comfortable. However, this was something that could take one's life. Moreover, a large portion of it was actually emitted after the supreme being had been burned, and then fused back in. Just thinking about it made one feel a sense of fear and the urge to vomit. Such a deadly thing was actually called dreamy and illusory blue. Once this blue appears, life will become dreamy and unreal, Wu Jueqing explained calmly. Don't think that it's just a compliment. The yellow-robed elderly man looked as if he was crying and complaining. He said with difficulty in a hoarse voice, "So it's Elder Wu who has come in person. Junior Chen Tianxing of the Chen clan pays his respects." Just that. Haha, these little brothers. Haha. There's more or less some misunderstanding. Elder Wu. Please forgive us. Misunderstanding, I know. Wu Jueqing nodded. As long as you can save this little one, I'll take it as if this matter never happened. I'll forgive you. As he spoke, Wu Jueqing pointed his finger at Wei Wuyan. The yellow-robed elderly man, Chen Tianxing, only wanted to give himself a few slaps in the face. Save. He knew clearly how much strength he had used. Not to mention a 2nd-grade supreme martial artist. Even a 4th-grade or 5th-grade supreme martial artist wouldn't be able to survive. It was already very lucky that his palm didn't smash this little one into smithereens. At this moment, Chen Tianxing's eyes were full of regret as he looked at Chu Yang and the rest. Helplessness and regret. If he had known that they were related to Wu Jueqing and that Wu Jueqing himself was nearby, he would rather kowtow to them and let them go than have any ideas about them. The dead can't be brought back to life. Chen Tianxing swallowed his saliva. My condolences, Elder. The Chen clan is willing to pay any compensation. As long as Elder is satisfied. Yes, of course, my condolences, Wu Jueqing said matter-of-factly. But he's dead. Since he's dead, there has to be a price. Don't you think so? This is a blood feud. Chen Tianxing nodded repeatedly. His face became even more bitter. Yes, yes, yes. But he felt extremely wronged in his heart. Only one of you died, but on our side, the souls of these 33 people have already returned to heaven and earth. As for the 12 people below, with you, Wu Jueqing, there's probably no antidote and they'll definitely die. Your deaths are a blood feud, but didn't we also have deaths? Furthermore, the number of deaths was even greater. But this sentence was something that he wouldn't dare to say even if he was beaten to death. Chu Yang. How do you plan to deal with him? Wu Jueqing looked at Chu Yang, who had been silently taking care of Wei Wuyan. I made a vow just now, you should have heard it too. Chu Yang's eyes slowly turned blood red. I want him to watch the entire Chen clan get annihilated, not leaving even a chicken or a dog alive. Good. Wu Jueqing said in a low voice. Then, let him go first. Chu Yang said word by word, revenge must be taken with my own hand. I want to take revenge for Wu Yan with my own hands. No matter what, even if it's completely devoid of conscience and against heaven and earth. I want the Chen clan to be annihilated. Chen Tianqing shouted, Sir, what you're saying is wrong. Only one of your people died. More than 40 people died on our side. I understand that you're sad that your brother died. But aren't the ones who died also brothers? Aren't they the flesh and blood of your descendants? If it was before, he would never have said these words. Because if he did, it would be equivalent to begging for mercy. But now, he had to say it. Because this person had a close relationship with Wu Jueqing. If he wanted to annihilate the Chen clan, it was really not a joke. Chu Yang laughed bitterly. He said, So, we all want to take revenge. Everyone has the same thought. Everyone has the same idea and will not rest until one of us is dead. But all of this is built on top of strength. If you can kill me to take revenge, I have no complaint. But if I want to kill all of you to take revenge for my brother, it's also reasonable. In your heart, even if all of us die, we can't compare to one of you. In my heart, it's the same. Chu Yang slowly raised his head. I don't want to say much about the cause and effect of this matter and who is right and who is wrong. I only want to say one thing: even if the entire Chen clan is annihilated and not even a chicken or dog is left alive, it won't be enough to appease the hatred in my heart. Chen Tianqing was stunned. Chu Yang was right. In fact, the other party didn't even care about right and wrong. The cause of this matter was, of course, the Chen clan being unreasonable. But the other party didn't care about this. I don't need a reason to take revenge and kill. I don't need any reason. In fact, I don't even need any righteousness or height. Only one reason is enough: my brother is dead. This reason is enough to wipe out any other reason, any premise, any justification. A figure flashed at the top of the mountain and a clear voice called out, Big brother, are you all right? Then, a little girl with delicate makeup ran over. She ran into the blue smoky place. Everyone was still in shock when they saw the little girl actually run in as if nothing had happened. Then, she cried out joyfully, Big brother, it's great that you're all right. I'm all right. But brother Wei. Chu Yang frowned and gritted his teeth. He forced back the tears that had already rushed to his eyes. A light mist appeared in his eyes. Big brother Wei? What's going on? Chula was shocked. Then, she saw Wei Wuyan. Teacher, quickly save my big brother Wei. Chen Tianqing closed his eyes and felt extremely dejected. So this little girl is Wu Jueqing's disciple. And this person is this little girl's big brother. Chapter 1303. Chula shook Wu Jueqing's arm. Wu Jueqing sighed sadly. He was known as the poison doctor back then. Not only was he skilled in poison, but he was also extremely skilled in medicine. The moment he saw Wei Wuyan, he knew that there was no hope. Chula's eyes reddened. She started to sob. If you don't want me to kill them, I will ask them to get lost, said Wu Jueqing to Chu Yang. The sooner the better. Chu Yang nodded. He turned around and said calmly, Chen clan, Chen Tianqing, remember, my name is Chu Yang. When I, Chu Yang, arrive at the Chen clan one day, it will be the time when the Chen clan is exterminated. Chen Tianqing snorted. He wanted to say a few harsh words, but his lips moved and he didn't say anything in the end. He waved and shouted, Let's go. They were about to leave. Wu Jueqing frowned and shouted, You want to leave just like that? Have you forgotten the rules of the martial world? Chen Tianqing was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He raised his hand and chopped off his little finger. It fell to the ground. He trembled all over and said, Elder Wu, is this enough? Wu Jueqing shook his head mercilessly. Not enough. Chen Tianqing took a deep breath and chopped off 2 more fingers. Elder, do you think this is acceptable? Wu Jueqing frowned. If you still don't satisfy me after the 3rd time, I will do it myself. Chen Tianqing roared and used his palm like a knife. With a crack, he chopped off his left shoulder and threw it on the ground. His whole body twitched and his face was pale. He said word by word, "I'm sure Senior will be satisfied now." Wu Jueqing's face turned cold. "Be more respectful. I am keeping you for Chu Yang. Otherwise, do you think this is enough to satisfy me? Kneel. Kowtow. Then get lost." Chen Tianxing began to pant heavily. Everyone behind him also looked furious. Wu Jueqing was really going a little overboard to say that killing someone was nothing more than a nod of the head. As the seventh elder of the Chen clan, Chen Tianxing had already chopped off his fingers and arms 3 times. He actually still had to kowtow and beg for mercy before he was willing to let him go. Wu Jueqing rolled his eyes and said coldly, "If you don't kowtow, all of you will die." Chen Tianxing shouted and spat out a mouthful of blood. He turned and knelt down. "Farewell, Heavenly Star. They definitely couldn't die here. If they couldn't even make it back, they would definitely die here. If the other party came knocking on their door in the future and the clan was completely unprepared, it would truly be a calamity." Scram. Wu Jueqing spat out coldly. Chen Tianxing's body trembled as he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. He couldn't even stand up. His body trembled, and he fainted. The other members of the Chen clan carried Chen Tianxing on their backs and silently retreated. From beginning to end, Chu Yang did not raise his head. Wn Renjie and the other 2 looked at the Chen clan's people leaving with hatred in their eyes. They gritted their teeth so hard that the sound of grinding could be heard. "Le, take out your heavenly moonlight. Cooperate with Chu Yang's heaven-nourishing jade and help him collect his soul," said Wu Jueqing. Under Wu Jueqing's command, Chu Yang cooperated fully, slowly merging the heavenly moonlight treasure and the heaven-nourishing jade. A pure white radiance slowly gathered around Wei Wuyan. They formed a large circle. It wrapped his body inside. Then, bits and pieces of illusory fragments rose from Wei Wuyan's body and slowly formed the shape of a human body in the circle of light above. More and more illusory fragments gathered and slowly, they turned into Wei Wuyan's appearance. Chu Le's tears flowed out uncontrollably. After a long time, the fragments stopped emerging. Wei Wuyan's illusory body. It had also completely recovered. He opened his eyes and seemed to have seen Chu Yang and the others. There was actually a gratified smile on his illusory face. "Brother Wei." Chu Yang took a deep breath. Your wish has been fulfilled." The illusory Wei Wuyan nodded repeatedly, his gaze urgent. The Wuyan sword had already been shattered into pieces by his attack, but at this moment, the illusory Wei Wuyan was also holding onto a sword. The Wuyan sword. Chu Yang was extremely sad. "It was just last night. It was just last night." The conversation with Wei Wuyan was still clear in his ears. Wei Wuyan said, "I won't take the initiative to seek death anymore. Actually, I can't bear to part with all of you. I really can't bear to part with both of them, but now that I have brothers, I can't bear to part with them too. Although I won't take the initiative to seek death, if I die in battle, I still beg you to fulfill my wish and bestow upon me the heavenly orchid." At the thought of this, Chu Yang felt as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. Wei Wuyan's heart was like dead ashes. He had long wanted to die. It wasn't easy for us to persuade him not to take the initiative to seek death anymore. It wasn't easy for us to set up a new goal for him in life and let him have new worries, but at this moment, he died. The teasing of life really made one speechless to the extreme. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but also felt powerless and helpless. If he was going to die, why wait until he had hope and sustenance again? Wouldn't this be too cruel to him and his brothers? Too cruel? The eyes of Wei Wuyan's illusory figure exuded urgency. Chu Yang closed his eyes helplessly. Wu Jueqing sighed. Exerting force with both hands, he exerted the maximum cultivation of a peak second-grade supreme martial artist and slowly formed an aura, slowly squeezing. Wei Wuyan's illusory figure was squeezed onto his own body in an instant, but he couldn't enter. Wu Jueqing snorted and pressed down with all his strength. Wei Wuyan's illusory figure entered his own body. Of course, it was impossible to return the soul, but it could create a phenomenon similar to the one before death. Quick! Wu Jueqing's face was red. Obviously, he had already done his best. At this moment, Wei Wuyan's body shook and blood flowed out of the corners of his mouth again. His eyes seemed to be open but not open. Chu Yang's hand was as fast as lightning. At this moment, a piece of heavenly orchid arrived at the corner of Wei Wuyan's mouth. Then, the heavenly orchid immediately turned into a colorful stream of light and disappeared. Wu Jueqing coughed and slowly stopped. His face looked even more tired. For someone whose soul had already been shattered and who couldn't be any more dead, to use external force to forcefully press the soul back into the dead body. Even Wu Jueqing wouldn't be able to persist for long under this kind of extreme exertion. As Wu Jueqing stopped, the illusory figure from just now slowly rose from Wei Wuyan's body. At this moment, it was obvious that Wei Wuyan's face was full of joy. On top of Wei Wuyan's head was a 10-colored flower petal. He looked at Chu Yang gratefully and glanced at the faces of his brothers with reluctance. He revealed a smile. His lips seemed to move. He couldn't speak, but Chu Yang could still tell from the shape of his lips that Wei Wuyan had said something. Little Jean. I'm coming. Those were the names of his deceased wife and child. At this moment, Wei Wuyan's face was gloomy. His eyes were filled with anticipation and apprehension. Chu Yang only felt that his eyes were hot. He said loudly, "Brother Wei, it's not that you don't have the face to see your wife and child. You've just been deceived. It's not your fault. And, you've already taken your revenge. You can go and look for them gloriously. Take care of them. Tell them. This is good news. Do you understand?" The illusory Wei Wuyan's face relaxed and he nodded at Chu Yang. "Brother Wei, I wish you a family reunion." Chu Yang clasped his hands. "If there's a next life, we'll be brothers again." Wn Renjie, Cheng Juiying and Bao Buhuan clasped their hands and bowed at the same time. "Brother Wei, I wish you a family reunion. If there's a next life, we'll be brothers again." Chu Le sobbed. "Big brother Wei, I wish you a family reunion soon." Illusory figure. Wei Wuyan clasped his hands together and clasped his hands. He bowed deeply towards everyone, then stood up and bowed deeply towards Wu Jueqing. Wu Jueqing smiled and waved. Wei Wuyan's body floated up. With a reluctant look on his face, he waved at Chu Yang and the others. Then, he rose higher and gradually disappeared between heaven and earth. In the vast heaven and earth, there seemed to be a faint sigh that dissipated quietly. Just like the melancholy in Wei Wuyan's heart, Chu Yang sighed deeply. Chu Le cried in Chu Yang's arms, her eyes swollen. "Big brother, do you think Big brother Wei can reunite with his wife and child?" "He can. He definitely can." Chu Yang stroked Chu Le's hair and said softly. He seemed to be comforting Chu Le, but Chu Yang was also comforting himself. "I really hope that you can find them. I really hope that all of you can have a next life, if there is. I hope that all of you can be extremely happy in your next life." After sending Wei Wuyan off, everyone became somewhat silent. Wn Renjie, Cheng Juiying and Bao Biyu were still digging the grave with all their might, wanting to bury Wei Wuyan's body. They didn't use their cultivation, but only used their hands and long swords to dig in the most primitive way. It was as if Wei Wuyan hadn't been buried for a moment, and he was still by their side, and still alive as their brother. Although they knew that it was impossible, the three of them still persisted in doing so. They wanted this feeling of their brother's existence to stay for a moment longer. It was also good. Chu Yang looked up at the clouds in the sky in a daze. At this moment, he was somewhat incomparably resentful. He was resentful of fate and resentful of heaven. If it wanted him to die, why did it give him hope and concern? Since it gave him hope and concern, why did it cruelly let him die when he just had the concern and sustenance to live on? Wu Jueqing stood beside Chu Yang. "What's wrong?" Chu Yang took a breath and said lightly, "Nothing. It's just that now, I feel that the so-called heaven's will, the so-called fate, is really very fucked up." Wu Jueqing imitated him and took a deep breath. He said sympathetically, "Yes, it's indeed very fucked up." Back then, he said the words back then and suddenly shut his mouth. Chu Yang knew that he was reminded of his brother back then, brother Jie back then. Chu Yang didn't turn his head to look, but he could still feel Wu Jueqing's lips trembling. Chu Yang could feel the bloody pain in Wu Jueqing's heart, as if he was being dismembered. After a long while, what even Chu Yang didn't expect was that Wu Jueqing finally managed to finish his sentence. Although he forcefully suppressed it and made himself remain calm, even Chu Le could hear the tremor in his voice. Back then, I also had a brother like this. I also had one. He raised his head, closed his eyes and said softly, "Will they have a next life?" This sentence was very soft, as if he was asking Chu Yang, as if he was asking the heavens, as if he was asking himself. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.